All right, let's start.
Okay.
All right. Because this is the first time, I want to get a good idea of who you are.
Okay.
So describe yourself and
Okay.
what you're studying, all that sort of stuff.
So, should I say my name?
You don't have to actually. You can give a broad overview about you. About anything.
Okay. My name is Teresa.
Okay.
This is my first podcast-esque thing. If you don't count my own personal private conversations with myself.
You record those?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right.
I am.
Wait, you might to hold it a little bit.
Sorry. Yeah, that's okay.
You don't know all the way. You don't have to be like, that's a good.
I'm 23.
Okay.
And I'm studying law and Western civilization, which is like a double degree, and I'm in my 5th year. And it's at ACU.
With 5th year?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's a 5-year degree, but I started a semester late.
Okay.
I wasn't convinced about the course.
Okay.
I wasn't convinced about the liberal arts degree, just as it is. And then I did a semester of law and journalism at UTS in my first year, and I hated it. And then I had a friend who was doing the course at the time basically say, don't waste any more time at UTS. Come sit in a class. And if you like it, you should apply for the scholarship and whatever. And so I did. And I came out and I sat in the class. It was an art and architecture class. And it was just the most incredible thing that I'd ever sat in. And I was like, oh, what am I doing? Okay. And so I just applied and I transferred. So it'll be 5.5 years for me. So I'm almost done.
Oh, mad.
Yeah.
5.5. So what's it total? 6?
It's 5, but because of that,
because of that
additional, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what made you like the liberal arts so much?
Oh, I love that question. If there's any question I'm prepared for, is that one.
All right, sick.
The law bit, I've just always enjoyed studying law. I love the law. I think it's incredible. Not all laws, obviously, but I think, and so I really enjoyed the law aspect. And journalism was kind of I just sort of tacked it on to the end. But with the liberal arts, the thing is, with this course, the other name for it is the Great Books course. That's kind of the colloquial name for the course. If you're studying it, everyone would say, I'm doing liberal arts, and then people say, oh, what's that? And then you kind of respond with, well, it's the Great Books. And then the conversations usually goes, well, what are the Great Books?
Okay. So what are the Great Books?
So the Great Books are effectively they're the great books of the Western intellectual tradition. Okay. So it's philosophy, literature, history, politics, and basically the books of the greatest minds of the Western, and there's an official Western canon, which is books that are included in this canon. Okay. But then basically just Western classic literature. Okay. So all the way from Plato, Socrates up through Renaissance, modernism, postmodern, and all the way up to today. Yeah, Western literature today. So you kind of cover. It's multidisciplinary. That's the official
big word.
So I know. Don't ask me to define it.
Damn.
Say it again. So that's basically what it is. So we basically study, the great books. So philosophy, literature, and effectively the class. There is no other course like it. It is literally just your lectures are literally you read the books or chapters from the books. And you come in and you have a 3-hour in-person seminar and you sit in a circle and you literally just talk about the books.
You're kidding.
Honest to God, that it is the most incredible. And the thing is, people always say, well, what's the point in studying liberal arts? What job are you going to get out of it? And I'm like, first of all, that's not historically the purpose of university education.
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
And second of all, what you're learning is to think for yourself. What you're learning, what to think is different than learning how to think. And I think that's the difference that I noticed when I left UTS and I came to the Western Civilization program. And that you don't know, that's quoting Socrates. Yeah, you really don't know as much as you think you do.
Content stealer.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Copyright 2000 years ago.
Yeah.
But, okay, that's cool. So you think that your course right now is teaching you more on how to think as opposed to what to think. And that's what you really love about it.
That's what I love about it, yeah.
It sounds like one of those courses that you can kind of just I think most courses that I've talked to people about is more the former or the latter?
The former, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a super cool, that's one of those courses that kind of echoes what you were saying, like the traditional reasons for why university kind of existed was like a balance of ideas, throwing them across each other.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe to your point that a lot of people are becoming sort of like bots when it comes to like, when I hear them, it's just like I'm hearing not them, but I'm hearing like...
You're parroting ideas of other people instead of thinking. And then the moment they're challenged, their arguments fall apart because they don't know how to think or they don't know how to step through arguments.
Right. And so how do you feel about that? Like, I was going to ask you about that, about the modern state of like opinions and beliefs about how people form them, what the issue is when people form them.
I think one thing that I did learn really quickly, well, I learned a few things very quickly because, again, you're in a classroom full of people who think very differently than you and you're all reading the same book, right? And so you're coming to the table, literally, and you're all reading the same book, but you're all coming with different perspectives and experiences. And I think one thing that I realized very quickly is I don't know very much at all. And two, like I have more to learn from other people than I do to like contribute myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think if you're kind of just in a state of you're trying to absorb as much as you can and critically evaluate as much as you can, then you're going to benefit more from that rather than just trying to convince people that you're right, is to convince yourself that you're right by opening yourself up. And so I think that's probably not what's happening today. I think that I think we're definitely seeing an echo chamber. And I think most people live in an echo chamber, but they're in denial about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think there's two ends of that spectrum. Like you've obviously got the people who are extreme. I use the words progressive and conservative like with like lowercase, right? Like I'm not talking about. Yeah. But I say like you've got the progressive who. I thought you were something. Yeah, I use progressives who like I thought something broke.
No.
Yeah, I use the term progressive in the sense that like people who just want to overturn every idea and sort of make things new.
Okay.
And I think that's a good thing, and I don't think that progressivism is inherently lowercase p is an inherently bad thing. Yeah. And then you've got the conservative lowercase or traditionalists who think that they should maintain tradition and conserve tradition at all costs.
Yeah.
And that. And they're obviously very resistant to the idea of change.
Yeah.
And I think that any two of those, like either end of those extremes, are extremely dangerous. And I think, now I think, and this is something that I learned in my first year is, which a lot of people don't agree with, obviously, but that I think that just throwing away an idea or challenging an idea or resisting an idea or a tradition just for the sake of it or just to be contradictory is dangerous.
And cringe.
Cringe, dangerous, but more importantly dangerous because you can be throwing away institutions and ideas and concepts that have stood the test of time.
Absolutely.
Just because you want to change.
Yeah.
But then you've got the other extreme of you hold fast to these traditions and these you try and conserve these lasting ideas simply for the sake of conservation. And I don't think that that's healthy. I think you need to critically analyze every tradition that you're holding onto and why it's something worth holding onto.
Okay, fair enough. And would you say that that's the main distinction that you hold between the left and the right, between the progressive and the conservatives? Is that adherence to tradition as opposed to wanting to upturn the tradition and look for something better?
I'd say maybe on like a very shallow level.
Okay.
That could be a distinction that's made. I think that, I feel like left versus right is like extremely complicated and layered terminology, but I do think if I'm using just the word progressive and the word conservative, that's sort of how I would define them. And I think that people tend to fall in those camps. But I think what's worse is a growing like in between of people who are indifferent, and I think that that's probably the most dangerous of all.
Indifference.
Yeah, is that you've got people who like fighting to protect something, you're fighting to change something, and then you've got people in the middle who don't care.
Yeah.
Or they don't think that it matters, and I think that's probably more dangerous. Yeah.
Absolutely. I would agree that what you were saying before about how everyone's belief seems to be just an echo of something that they've already heard before. And I think that sort of filters into my position that humans more seek out, let's just say, psychological coherence and just being able to establish a worldview that doesn't have contradictions, as opposed to sometimes seeking the truth, which is an issue. Because you'd find that, to be able to critically evaluate your own position is to be open to destroying everything you knew about your old position, about your former self.
Yeah.
Which is very challenging, I would say. And that's one of the reasons, that I feel like we have these such distinct groups right now. And I feel like that's sort of just kind of swinging into another topic is like what sort of started to characterize my thought also recently is that I started to feel less that I wanted to chase something that is more, coherent and comfortable thinking, and it became more so, adapting to incoming information, but doing so in good faith. That I'm approaching everything that I hear in good faith, analyzing the evidence and forming an opinion based on that, as opposed to a preconceived idea. And so about I wanted to hear your thoughts about what do you think about that sort of process. Do you think that's something that's been characterizing your sort of thoughts, or you have any issues with that, or reflections?
Like critically analyzing like evidence and like my key beliefs, if you know what I mean.
How does that influence you? Have you had that thought process happen to you?
Yeah.
Where you've kind of had to leave your comfort zone?
Yes. Oh, without a doubt. I think I think that's a good question, because I think again, I think both extremes can like fall into this.
Sorry, that was really loud. ASMR. Let's switch halfway through. Yeah.
I'll do that after. I feel like again, both extremes can fall into this camp, but I think that there's a general risk of people like not being open to the fact that they're wrong, but also and I think in my experience, when I was in high school, I was definitely especially my later years of high school, I really got into politics. I was really interested in US politics, which was kind of
that tends to be the thing
ironic,
that happens here,
right? Because people people are so indifferent in this country.
Yeah,
this is could talk about that for a long bit.
Well,
but
I'm a not victim, but I'm someone who falls on that category.
And
unfortunately,
you know what? It's more people than you think, and people just go, "I don't care," I don't care, whatever. And my answer is always like, "Well, you should."
Yeah.
And then like everyone should care.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, I think I definitely cared. I was someone who cared. I was really interested in US politics, Australian politics, like to some extent.
Okay.
But I did debating. Anyway, I was so like hell bent on like debating and convincing people and making them think that like I'm right, or that like I know what I know and you don't,
yes.
and this and this, and again, both sides can fall into that.
Yeah.
And you probably, that probably resonates with you. But I think
100%.
As I left school, obviously just different life experiences as well kind of soften you. They've softened me. And also studying Western civilization and meeting some people who I don't agree with, and having my ideas. Sitting in a classroom and a topic, for example, we had a class on the Reformation.
Okay.
There was a religion unit. And so we looked at religion like in the West, all the way back, all the way to today, and kind of the scientific revolution, and we looked at all of that, and then we looked, and a large part of it was looking at the Reformation and the differences and how that affected the development of science in the West, and then basically ultimately the fall of religion in the West. So that was a really interesting unit, and
that is cool.
Yeah, and you're sitting in a classroom and you think, I don't really know how to argue these points, or I don't really know how to argue against, and some of them are really convincing, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's like this fine line between throwing away everything that you believe because you're challenged and because you're unsure of the answers, as opposed to, like you said, seeking the genuinely and honestly in good faith, seeking the truth, but not just like discarding everything that you have been handed down, because there's a reason that these things have been handed down to you, and two, there's a reason these things have lasted so long. It's not because of patriarchy, it's not because of oppression, it's probably because they're good things. It's probably because they're good things, but I think I did learn, especially going through high school and into university, and then just general life experiences, I'm not right about most things. I don't know a whole lot.
Okay.
But and my job isn't to convince other people.
Yeah.
True. Do you know what I mean? My job is to learn from other people.
Yeah.
And seek the truth.
Yeah, and collectively get there together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's I've definitely moved towards instead of like trying to build up a wall and come up with all the best arguments and all this ammunition.
Yeah.
I've done the opposite of what you were saying, of like receiving ideas and then kind of engaging with them, as opposed to
not to say that arguments wrong, but like
no
doing them in a way where it's like when you hear another argument, it's like you're willing to adapt your own like perspective and everything, which is so true. But let's get into the weeds of that a little bit, because you mentioned there's a lot of tearing down and a lot of keeping up, and I want to know a little bit about what you feel are the things that shouldn't be torn down, and what you think are the things that
gosh. I'm trying to think of something that's kind of uncontroversial.
You can be as controversial as you like.
Yeah. I think, and I don't think this is that controversial. I don't know how much we would disagree on this, but I think like there are certain institutions. The one that immediately comes to mind is marriage, right? That like, and again, I'm basing this off the idea that of being what's the word? A critical traditionalist. I don't even know if that's what I would officially. I don't know if I would officially call myself that, but basically, like you believe that not all traditions are bad and that some are worth preserving. But so you don't immediately. Your starting point isn't abandon all tradition and then analyze every single tradition and then see which one I should keep. Sometimes it's the case that the tradition has been a man and a woman marry, and you don't like sleep together before you get married, and then you don't live together before you get married. And you get married, and then the whole, the union of love between the man and the woman creates the family, and blah, blah, blah. And these are all like good things. Yeah. And that I'm not acting on the presumption that they're bad because they're tradition.
Okay.
So that's probably like the main one that comes into my mind.
Okay. That's a good one to talk about, because I think we'd have a lot to talk about there.
Yeah.
So I was a big advocate for, traditional nuclear family, and I still am. I still think that's a really useful structure. But I would say that my view has turned more to a pragmatic approach to relationships and marriage, because obviously I think a lot of the nuclear family approach, at least when we're talking about obviously you're a Christian Catholic, all that sort of stuff. I assume that a lot of that would filter into your idea of a design for marriage, right? Is that correct? I don't want to mischaracterize.
Yeah, I guess it's like well, yeah, even religion aside, it's something that all across cultures, across millions of years, like that's just sort of been the that's sort of been like the structure or the tradition. But I do think there's a strong argument to be made that in the absence of God or in the absence of religion or any spirituality, marriage means absolutely nothing.
Oh wow! Okay, interesting.
And maybe you could argue there are degrees of importance, and that you eliminate God or you eliminate religion. There are benefits. There are economic benefits. There are practical benefits to, promising your life to one person.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's absolutely nothing binding you two together besides a law. And the moment that you decide you don't want to be there anymore, the only thing keeping you there is a contract, which can be broken, because contracts can be broken or rescinded or,
Right.
Yeah. So that'd be kind of like, but I guess that's a separate.
No, that is part of
religion and whatever.
Because I would say that my my beliefs about how I don't think there is a how anymore, or a purpose or design to things. So I used to think that there is a purpose or design to marriage.
That's interesting.
And because of that, if you don't believe in a universal invigilator, then I kind of am forced to fall under this idea that, there is an institution called marriage, and humans have created it for this reason or for that reason. And I would tend to agree with you that, the nuclear family structure is super important. But when it comes to like the specifics about, the way marriage is supposed to be carried out, whether like sexual practice outside of marriage, that sort of stuff. When you're talking about it's supposed to be a commitment that is transcendental and that is inseparable, I think that sort of stuff kind of relies on this, as you said, kind of like this purpose or design to it. Because I think what you were saying about how if you didn't have anything beyond just a legal contract, it would be meaningless. I would push back a little bit on that, because I do believe that everything. I don't think meaning is necessarily like given to something. I believe it's found within the people who find it meaningful. Yeah, but I want to hear about your opinion on that. So I would feel that not just about marriage, about life in general as well. So I believe that if I do anything in this world, I'm doing that because I see meaning in that thing.
So you're creating a purpose.
I wouldn't say that.
So okay, wait, because I'm trying to understand. So you don't think that anything has like an inherent meaning or design or purpose?
I think there's a problem with using those words interchangeably.
Okay.
Design and purpose doesn't necessarily correlate.
Okay.
I'd say design and purpose is one thing, but I also think that meaning itself, that is a concept that can only be. If someone were to tell me that it's meaningful for you to do this particular thing, I don't think that's going to give that thing meaning. I think what gives it meaning is the fact that I find it meaningful.
So it's not inherent. That's what you're saying. Like meaning isn't inherent. And maybe we should use an example to get specific, but like maybe marriage, for example. Yeah. Or the human person. Yeah. There's no inherent. I don't know about design. Maybe there's no inherent purpose to the human person. We're just here because we are, and you find meaning. The only meaning that you have is the meaning that you find for yourself. Not that you were inherently created with meaning or purpose.
Yeah, I think this is more of like an is-ought problem. Because something is the case, you were created with this meaning or purpose, it doesn't mean that we can find meaning in that thing. So if God, for example, created me and told me, this is something, this life that you have, this purpose that I've set for you, this is going to be really meaningful for you, I don't think that's what necessarily gives it meaning. It's the fact that I see meaning in that thing. And I think that's something that can't be, it can't be given, it's simply recognized. And so when I think about this idea, like if we don't have a divine purpose or a plan to anything, that therefore means everything is arbitrary in terms of its meaning. I don't think that necessily follows because...
well, it does.
Okay, why does it follow?
Yeah. Well, okay, wait. If we go back to... Maybe you could come up with an example of what you mean by... like, just to clarify, because I kind of see what you're saying.
I'm getting excited as
well.
Yeah.
As in, I kind of see what you're saying. Yeah. I'm just trying to understand if... And maybe my issue is like I did use those words interchangeably because they are kind of very connected. But so do things not have inherent... and to say something is meaningful is different to say that something has meaning. Yeah. And I think that you've used those words interchangeably.
Okay,
and I don't know if I agree with that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I would say like what... Maybe if you could come up with an example of what you mean to say like this doesn't have inherent meaning. There's only meaning because I've found it.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so basically... I think that for everything in the world, you're going to find someone who doesn't find that thing meaningful. And therefore, this idea of inherent meaning is like...
So it's subjective.
Well, essentially, yeah. That's what I think meaning is. But it doesn't mean...
Okay.
But I don't think that subjectivity follows... necessarily has to be tied with meaninglessness. It's just the fact that we see... So, for example, if I saw... For me, let's pretend we're outside of the world of a universal invigilator. There's no God. Let's just pretend we're in that world for a second.
Okay.
And then I have a child, right? And I love that child.
Yeah.
And I look at the child and I think, wow, I love this child so much. I find so much meaning in the fact that I see a child. Does that mean it's objective and everyone will see that everyone will have the same... opinion or perspective as to whether that's meaningful? No, but does that take away from the fact that I find it personally really meaningful and beautiful to me? I don't think that's necessarily the case, and I think that's the case with all things that I find meaningful. Is that there doesn't need to be a case for it. There's just it's there, and it naturally my attachment or desire or my attraction to that thing is just naturally there.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So you can critique that as much as you. I want you to hear what you say.
That is an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not one I haven't heard before.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So but I think having a child, that's it's an interesting example. Would you? I guess this is kind of a follow-up question. Would you think that if things don't have inherent meaning, and I feel like we haven't really defined it or clarified exactly what I mean. Like meaning, do you mean inherent value, inherent purpose?
What do you mean by inherent? Does that mean that every...
Like the thing that it's created in the essence of the thing, like for example, a person, I would argue, has inherent value and worth. Yeah. And meaning, I don't know if that really is a question that you can apply to, does a person have meaning? Inherent meaning. Yeah. I don't know.
I would say value.
That makes sense.
I would say value.
So if they, they have a human person has inherent value, right? And so I guess my question to you is, where does that come from? Does that person have value because I have found value in them? Yeah. In the same way that I have found meaning in this particularly, or is it the case that, because I guess a counterexample, what if I find meaning in your child being dead? Okay, and I find meaning in ending other people's lives. Yeah. And you don't find meaning in that. Yeah. And maybe the vast majority of people don't find meaning in that. So and I don't find value in your child being alive. Yeah. So I'm going to kill your child because that gives me meaning, it gives me purpose, but it also means I don't think they have any inherent value, so I'm going to do what I want to them. Yeah. Or my inherent value of killing trumps their inherent value. Yeah, right. So I guess my question is, is it the case that meaning, value, purpose can only be prescribed to somebody, or ascribed to somebody, or is it the case that it is inherent in them? And you did seem to think that value is inherent. Yeah. So if it is inherent, how does that then not contradict your point of, if meaning and that projection and I find value in that person is that's merely subjective? And how could you then respond to me saying, well, my meaning comes from ending that person's life, or my meaning comes from killing that person? I don't know if that makes any sense.
So this is going to get a little bit philosophical and kind of mind-brainy, mind-poopy.
Try and keep it layman's terms for me.
Yeah, that's fine. So, so the thing is, I think that when it comes to, like, you said inherent meaning, so I assume that means that requires...
Maybe value? Should we use that word?
Value.
And you think that people have inherent value?
I would say it depends when you say inherent, do you mean...
They're born with it? Like,
yeah, so...
Put simply, yeah.
It's independent of people seeing value in that thing. It's just objectively valuable.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I treat every moral claim or value claim with as much objectivity as a claim to logic. So I would argue this is kind of tied in with the idea of moral objectivity as well. Because, if you say a claim like it is wrong to... I don't want to say torture a 2-year-old in the basement. Something like that.
It's a hypothetical claim. Yeah,
hyper fun. Hypothetical for fun. But yeah, if you have that claim,
that it's objectively wrong to torture a 2-year-old.
I don't believe I can make an 100% objective argument for why that might be wrong, but I think I can make an argument where that is as objective as something as like a logical truth. And my argument is that neither can a religious person. And I'll get into that a little bit.
I had a feeling that you were going there with that.
Yeah, so it's the same. I think the value and morality sort of conversation is tied together in terms of its
with religion.
In terms of its objectivity. Like,
well, and I would actually say that you're probably on the right track in the sense that you cannot make a single moral claim without some kind of like either faith argument or religious argument. Like, I think it's very difficult to make a moral claim about anything if you can't acknowledge that there's some kind of order to the world or objective order to the world.
Objective order?
Yeah, or objective design or objective value or purpose. Ooh. So, for example, if a person is born with inherent value, and maybe if you're a Christian, you would say because they're made in the image and likeness of God, and they have they basically, you cannot quantify their value. They are inherently valuable. Then that would be the moral claim. Would be it's always innocent to take the life it's always wrong to take the life of an innocent human being because they're infinitely valued.
So you're saying that claim, for it to be objective, it has to rely on the instruction or design of a particular individual.
To some degree, yeah. Like it does, because otherwise, if there's no real design or purpose, or there's no like objective, and there's no design, then where do you get your moral claims from? Yeah. Is it I ascribe morality to that? I ascribe meaning to that? That's moral because I say it is.
Yeah.
That's moral because I say it is. And then this person says, well, actually, I say that's moral because I say it is. Then you get into this like, you have no legs to stand on.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, I'm going to tie this all in because that's a good objection. But my objection is that when it comes to things being objective, I would say that let's take a claim like a logical claim, right? Let's say when I think of logic, I got to be clear here. This is all going to tie in eventually.
So take your time.
So when I think of logic, I'm not talking about a law of the universe like gravity. That's not logic. Logic is more like the underlying reality that a conclusion follows from two premises. And I always use this example. Okay. Like Brian is a dog. Yep. All dogs have fleas, therefore Brian has fleas. If those two premises are true, the conclusion must follow. Yeah. That is an example of logic. The logic is kind of like the thing that makes the conclusion necessarily follow from the premise.
Is it sound? Is it valid? Etc. Yeah.
Exactly. And I would argue that logical intuition is something that is axiomatic, and it's basically has no evidence to it. It's just an intuition. So I could not convince you. I cannot give evidence for why that thing is true or false. That the conclusion follows from the premises because it's the basis of evidence. That's the very thing we use for evidence. It's the fact that the conclusion follows from the premises.
Well, that's one way to use it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the logical argument. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is that in that specific example, the logic that carries the conclusion from the premises is intuitive. It's something that we just know and understand.
But how? Because what if I don't know it?
Then that's the thing. I couldn't convince you otherwise. Because can you think of how I would convince you if you didn't know it?
If I didn't know that like two premises have to be true and
So if you went up to me and you would never do this, but if you said like Brian is a dog, all dogs have fleas, but then Brian doesn't have to have fleas, and you just said that, I'm like, and I'll be like, but it does.
But I don't think you need to know the like. I think the term it's the syllogism, isn't it?
Yes, the syllogism.
Yeah. Right. So I don't think I need to know that this person created the syllogism and that this is how logical arguments work. I think that any reasonable person could just say, but all dogs don't have fleas. Yeah. I don't think that you need to know that it's like premises, conclusion. I feel like it is possible to to rebut that without knowing that structure existing.
Yeah, that's true. But the problem is, I'm saying that it doesn't have to be that. If it could be like, if a gloob is exorb, I'm making up random terms.
Okay.
If a gloob is also exorb, and exorb is also a glebe, then a gloob is a glebe. It's like it doesn't have to be tied to it. Like, logic is the thing that carries it. And so if you were to, like, the idea is that given that the first two premises are true, like they're true.
They have to be true.
Yeah, if they are true, then the conclusion has to follow.
Yeah.
That's just what a syllogism is, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. But like, but my argument is that if you didn't agree with that,
that's what a syllogism is.
Yeah, no, sorry. If you didn't agree that the conclusion must follow from the premises,
Oh,
that's what I meant. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Like,
okay.
Yeah. If you didn't agree that the conclusion doesn't follow from the premises, there's nothing.
But it doesn't matter if I agree. Like, that's just the way that it is.
Yeah, it is. It is, right?
Yeah.
But that's the point.
So then I'm wrong.
Yeah. But
Right.
but then I can't prove you're
No,
wrong.
you can't. Well, no, it's not about proving or not. It's just that I'm either wrong and I'm ignorant,
Exactly.
and you're not,
But how do you know that?
because that's how it is.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like, it's an intuition. Like, we just know.
What?
We just know you're wrong because, like, it's clearly true, right? So that's the thing. We're relying on basically an evidence.
Well, I guess. Then I guess your question is like, how do we know what is true?
Yeah.
Epistemology.
Epistemology.
Epistemology. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's a bigger question of like, how do you know what is true?
Yeah, and my argument
that's a great question.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my argument is, at least for logical claims, that's intuition. Because so this is why it's going to all tie together. I'm saying that for the claim like that, it's always going to be an intuition. It's always going to be just...
What do you mean intuition? I guess maybe I want to like press on that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So intuition is just like something I know to be true, but I have no evidence for it.
But what if I know it to not be true?
Then that's the thing. So
intuition is misleading and...
Yeah, no, but that's my point, because you could have a different intuition. You could think that the conclusion doesn't follow from the premises.
But okay. Well, then I guess my question is, can we both be right?
No.
So one of us is wrong.
But that's the point. Knowing that both of us can't be right is also an intuition.
But I guess my point is like, one of us has to be wrong.
Why?
With the law of non-contradiction, we can't both be right.
I don't believe in the law of non-contradiction.
Really? So you think like...
No, I do. But I'm just saying, if I didn't, what would you say to me?
Well, then I'm saying, I guess I go back to that question of like, you have a 2-year-old, I want to kill the 2-year-old, you don't want to kill the 2-year-old. Well, maybe it's not your kid, because that's a little dark. But like, there's a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
I want to stab the child.
Dude, what the hell?
You don't want to stab the child.
Yeah.
My intuition says stab the child, your intuition says stab the child. We come to a head, we don't agree.
Yeah.
We can't both be right. Is stabbing the child the wrong thing to do, or is stabbing the child the right thing to do?
Well, that's exactly
We can't both be right. So that is the law of non-contradiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So in the same way that you just know the law of contradiction to be true, and that two things can't simultaneously be true if they contradict each other, that is a claim that is based on an intuition. And I would say that intuition also applies to the moral situation that we're saying. Even though I can't technically prove by some law of the universe, I can't look at something sensually and go, and say that, it's wrong to stab a 2-year-old. But like, because we have the intuition, I would say that same sort of intuition that we have is mirrored in our logical intuitions. And so I think it would be just as objective to say that the law of non-contradiction exists as it would be to say that stabbing a 2-year-old is wrong. Does that make sense? You can disagree, but this is the kind of like the...
It kind of makes sense. I don't know if I'm like entirely following. What's like the main claim here? Is it that like that yeah? Well, what's kind of like the main claim to that then?
Yeah, right. So the main claim is that we were talking about how objective. The objectivity of value and morality. I kind of use them interchangeably.
Yeah.
I still like kind of, in order to have a moral system, you have to have value. In order to have value, you have to have sort of morals. I think that's sort of like kind of, or maybe not the other way around. But yeah. But so I was using them interchangeably. But the point was that you're kind of pressing me like, if there's no design, if there's no order, how can you have a claim that is objective, right? And I would say, technically you can't. But I would say that you can get a claim that's just as objective as the law of non-contradiction being true. Because
maybe I just need an example. I think maybe I'm just a little bit...
Yeah, sure.
Like, because that's a lot of, like, cross claims. I guess my thing is, like, how do you have a moral claim without any, like... And, again, this is even non-Christian, just generally. Like, unless you believe that things have... Or even just take a plant, for example. You look at a plant. A plant has... Like, you can see that in the structure of a plant and in the life of a plant or a tree,
Fibonacci sequence,
whatever. Like, there's there's clearly a design there,
Yeah.
right? And there's clearly like a mechanism and a thing and a pattern that it follows. And it obviously has a purpose, if you will, a natural purpose, right? To grow, sun, whatever, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
We all know what happens to a tree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like if you look at that, that and you can kind of make that claim or whatever. I don't think we need to argue about the purpose of a tree.
I want to.
Okay.
okay.
Get that on a t-shirt.
Become the podcast slogan. Purpose of a tree.
Yeah, let's argue about the purpose of a tree. No, I don't know. I guess I'm just struggling to understand how you can make any moral claim without, and how you could say that two claims can be both objectively true.
No, that's the problem.
About the same thing. Is that what I'm saying? Like, what's the
right?
Do we are we agreeing? I'm
Yeah. Well, okay. So, let's say we have. Do you know how I talked about logic flowing from the premises to the conclusion?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we both agree that that's a necessary. The conclusion must necessarily follow from the premises if the premises are true.
Yeah, but
right?
I feel like that's just like a really specific way of saying it. You know, like just on a more basic level is like it has to be.
It has to be the case.
It has to be the truth.
Yeah.
It has to be objectively true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my argument is that the fact that that is true is relying on an intuition that is unprovable. Because in order for it to be provable, you would have to appeal to another intuition. So it's the most so logic is the baseline of the fact that we're having discussion. We need to rely on logical principles that that things don't contradict each other. They can't contradict each other. But at the very baseline, those things, they're axiomatic. And what I mean by that is that you can't prove them. You can't prove 1 + 1 = 2. 1 + 1 is 2.
You don't think we can prove that 1 + 1 = 2?
No. You can't. But that's the problem. That's the problem. Like it's.
Oh wait, so you're saying that you can't prove anything to be true?
No. You can't prove the most. So you can prove things to be true.
How?
Based on logical axioms. So
1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the baseline. You'd have to believe 1 + 1 = 2 to prove anything. But the most fundamental claim that 1 + 1 = 2 is by nature unprovable.
No, it's not. You have one item and you have another item.
Yeah.
You have two items.
What if I disagree with that?
Then you're wrong. Like, we can't both be right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the claim that we can't both be right.
Yeah.
That claim.
Yes.
Can you prove that claim is true?
Well, because if there's 1 + 1 = 2, if there's two objects in front of us and you're saying there's 3 and I'm saying there's 2, there's 2. Or the sky is blue. You think the sky is green.
Yes.
Well, okay. Oh, well then again, it goes back to that question: how do you know that something is true? Well, then that's a whole rational inquiry. But I don't. But I refuse to believe that we can't both be right about something, and that's the whole point of life is the pursuit of the truth.
Yeah, right? And I agree with you on that. But that's my point. Is that I agree that the law of non-contradiction is something that cannot not be true. It
has to be.
It has to be. But the thing is, let's say everyone in the world disagreed with you, right? Like, is there anything you could do to prove that the law of contradiction must be the case, aside from just saying it must be the case? You would have to appeal to some logical principle, which is by...
And you're saying that's intuition?
Yeah, exactly.
And what do you mean by intuition? It's just like a feeling or like a...
We just know it. That's what I mean.
Like we're born knowing it? Because we're not born knowing it.
Yeah, exactly.
We're taught it.
As soon as you're... No, I wouldn't say we're taught it because...
I think you are.
Well, kids have a natural... So if a kid sees something in a box, right? And I put an object in a basket, and I close the basket, and then I open it again. The kid will know that, okay, look, it's still going to be in there. Well, very early on, they won't know that.
Exactly.
Yeah, true. But it evolves
through experience.
Once your brain is complex enough to understand stuff like that, then you're going to figure it out. Like you don't need to, but you don't necessarily get taught that. It's just something that you.
That's interesting. So is that like empiricism? You think that like experiencing things are the way that we learn these things because that's the intuition that forms from experience, or is it intuition is something that we're taught?
I'm not exactly sure the mechanism, but it's definitely not taught in terms of logical principles. I don't think you teach a child that, you can't. This is my kind of fundamental claim is that you can't teach something as fundamental as 1 + 1 = 2. It's either you get it or you don't, because you can't you can just say if you have 1 and you have 1, then you have 2. But then if I just don't get it, if I just don't understand, there's literally nothing you can say. You can't be like, oh, the law of non-contradiction says this. If I don't believe in the law of contradiction, you can't. You have to, at some basic level, you just have to accept logical truths at the baseline as just true, and you can't. But then from that, given that you accept those, then you can start to have arguments about proving things, right? So I can say to you that like the Brian is a dog thing, like that is only true insofar as that you accept that logic exists and it's right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know that that's like I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah. I'm just trying to think like how that plays out sort of in reality, because obviously, I mean, I don't know if I completely agree with the idea that that you're born with this intuition. Yeah. I don't believe that. I think you look at a newborn, they have zero intuition. It's all instinct.
Yeah. I
go towards the mother.
I should have clarified once your brain is complex enough to understand basic
right.
stuff.
And then I think that's where I would say, like, at what point, because then they've, you know, and you've done psychology, you've probably seen plenty of studies and things, but you look at how does a baby, get to a state of a complex brain, complex enough to intuit basic concepts like 1 + 1 = 2, or to basic concepts like logic exists. You're only saying that because you believe that you're saying that logic exists because you were born and you were inevitably going to intuit that logic exists. And I'm saying that's not the case. I think that you like, and I think obviously that a newborn baby doesn't have the capacity to reason, but I don't think that you have any newborn baby and you don't interact with them, they don't have any experience, they're not taught anything, they're just inevitably going to reason. Because I think that human history proves that. You have, and again, like, don't want to get too controversial here, but like you have particular points in human development, right, where you've got people, let's just say you take a Neanderthal, okay? You have to be really uncontroversial, you take a Neanderthal and you take a Neanderthal newborn baby, and you don't teach them anything, no one speaks to them, and they're just out in the wild by themselves. Like, besides what they're experiencing, I don't believe they're going to intuit logic.
Okay.
I don't know if I, I just don't know if I can accept that. Yeah.
The problem is that I would agree for that in terms of, I would agree that they're not going to be able to develop a rational understanding for things that is required. Sorry, I'm going to rephrase this. I think that the logical intuitions that we're talking about, they're rational. Yeah, I would say that that's the basis for learning things.
But so you have to be a rational creature.
Yes.
And where do you get rationality? Is that completely intuitive? And I'm saying I don't know. I do believe that rationality has to be is partly taught and partly like discovered, and I feel like it's not as simple to say that it's intuitive. I don't know if I.
Yeah, no. So rationality, so rational deliberation, having thoughts about a particular thing.
Yeah.
That relies on logical intuitions, and so when I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say I don't know if I would agree with that.
So like when I have a thought, I have to believe that the thought exists and that it's caused and that it happens in my brain, right? That's like those fundamental like claims are something that are just assumed.
No, I think the capacity to reason comes first.
Okay.
I think that like a dog is born with no capacity to reason. And maybe that's a debate on the side. But you know what I mean. Like the rational capacity of a human is not the same as a rational capacity of a dog. Humans are born with a unique rational capacity.
Yeah.
I think that comes first.
Prior to what?
Sorry?
Prior to what? Comes first before...
Like before... I think the rationality allows you to accept that logic exists.
Oh, so you don't think logic...
I don't think that logic is just like comes first and it's intuitive, because it's not. And you look at a child, they throw themselves on the floor and they're screaming. That's not... there's no presupposition of logic there, because obviously if you use logic, you would say that that's probably not...
That's not what they would
do. But at that point in their development, their rationality, and that's why I think the rationality... is a precursor to this acceptance of logic. But I think that we have a rational capacity, and the rational capacity of a 2-year-old is obviously different than the rational capacity of a 16, 17, 18.
I think the conversation's getting a little like when it comes to the rationality. I think what's the issue we're having is when I'm talking about rationality and logic, I'm using them in a very specific way. So when a kid is throwing an object from its little high chair and going, you give it back and it throws it again.
Yeah. There's no logic there.
There is. That's my point. Because they know that when you throw it, it goes to the ground. And that's why they do it again.
But I would argue that comes from a rational capacity first. That you need to be able to reason.
Do you mean when you say rational capacity, do you mean that your brain is developed enough to be able to understand logical intuitions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree with that.
Yeah, but that means that logic is dependent on your ability to reason and not the other way around.
Okay, no, I agree with that. But I would also say that logic is the foundational principles of reason, right? So you develop the rationality to understand logic, but logic is the foundational principle about why you would be able to believe anything in the first place. Because logic is kind of like the necessary truth that follows from true propositions. It's the necessary conclusion that follows from those things. And it's kind of like, this was kind of like, because I was trying to relate it back to morality. Do you still want me to relate it back to the morality?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if that's where you were going with it. Yeah. I guess that was my question, is like, how are you bringing it back to
The reason why I was talking about logical intuitions is that whether or not rationality evolves before logic, or depending on how you define rationality, but whether or not which one comes first, I believe that your understanding of basic logical intuitions about the law of non-contradiction and stuff is something that either you have it or not. Whether it is taught or not, you either have it or not, and it's not something that is provable. Because if you were to be able to prove it, then you would have to be relying on something even more fundamental than the most fundamental logical principle. This is why it's getting really okay. But the point is that in the same way that we just rely on these most fundamental claims, I think morals are sort of are a similar sort of claim, where it's like they're at base unprovable, but we just accept them. And I do want to get into why I feel like religiously it's not something that you can either establish objectively either. If you want to get into that.
Wait. Sorry. What was that last sentence you said? You say that again.
What did I say?
You said something about the logic and the intuition and morality.
Yeah. So logic.
Sorry, I'm just trying to.
Yeah, sure. So logic at its very base, the most fundamental logical principles. Well, I think logic as a concept is something that underlies.
Oh, right, and you cannot prove it.
Yes, exactly.
You can't prove that logic exists.
Exactly. You just know it. Either you were taught it, either you were developed it, but you know that
So it's not intuitive, because if you're taught it, it's not intuitive.
When I say intuitive, I guess what I mean by that is that it is something that is unprovable. You just understand it or you don't.
I feel like you've made a few claims that I just don't accept. Like the first one being that logic is intuitive, and the second one being that something being intuitive means you either know it or you don't.
Okay, all right.
And are you saying that if you don't know it, you can't know it?
If you don't know it,
you can't.
You can't. Well, no, you can't use. You can't prove it, is what it is. Maybe one day you will get to know it.
But how do you know something? So you're saying that proof is how you know something?
Well, proof is... Sorry, I confused myself. So proof relies on logical principles. And so you can't use proof to establish logic. It's a circular argument. So if you think that you have to prove logical principles, and logical principles underlie the proving process, you can't use proof to justify logical principles if logical principles are needed to justify proof.
But then how can you argue that logic is intuitive? Because that's a claim.
That's my point, though. Because you can't prove logic, that's what I mean by intuitive.
And I'm saying that claim is in itself a contradiction. Like to say you can't prove a claim, but then that very statement is using logic to prove a claim. Like your premise is that you can't prove logic with logic.
Yeah.
And I'm saying you're using logic to make that claim.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a contradiction. So I'm saying that can't be right. I don't know what the correct.
I know what you're trying to say.
I'm saying that's a contradiction.
The very fact that we're having conversation requires logic.
Well, the very fact that you're making the claim that you can't prove logic with logic.
Yeah.
Is a logical claim.
But that's the contradiction in my favor, is what I'm sort of arguing, is that the fact that I need logic even to make that argument.
No, but then I guess my response is can you really say that logic is intuitive? I don't know.
It depends on what you mean by intuitive. For me,
by your definition, I don't know.
But my definition is that it's unprovable at a baseline.
That logic is unprovable.
Sorry, my definition of intuitive is that you can't prove it. Is that in this specific case, when I'm using the word intuition, I mean that it's something that you just accept or you don't.
I'm this is so interesting to me, but I'm also just really trying to understand. That's why I'm asking so many questions. I'm not trying to. Are
you happy to keep going with this? Because I'm enjoying this, but it's up to you.
Yeah.
Cool. This topic,
Only because I just really want to understand what your claim is. Are you saying that you can't prove logic with logic? Is that what you're saying? There's no way to prove that the logical. But
it's like saying I can't.
But you're making a logical claim.
Exactly. But I can't prove to you that it's a logical claim unless you already know what logic is.
So why should I believe anything that you're saying to me right now? If that's your argument.
You don't have to believe
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. I think that I don't accept that. I don't accept that that I can't believe a single thing that you're saying.
But do you believe it?
That's what I'm saying. What do you mean?
Do you believe that you can't use... Wait, do you believe that you can't use logic to prove logic? Oh, wait, sorry. Do you believe in logic at a baseline level?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but then if I were to come up to you and I say, look, I don't believe in logic, and you were to use logical arguments to try to convince me that logic exists, you can't, because I don't believe in logic.
Have you tried to make a logical argument to prove that logic exists?
No, I'm saying that it's impossible. You can't use something to prove itself, is kind of my point.
That's your argument. Okay,
Yeah.
you can't use something to prove itself.
Yeah, so... And you're saying that's a logical thing as well. And
that's a logical claim.
Yeah, and how are you using... You can't use logic to prove itself, but you're saying...
And you're using logic to say you can't prove logic.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I'm saying that's a little...
That's a contradiction?
It's a little... it's an unusual argument.
Well, welcome to me.
I'm unusual. Convinced by it. I guess maybe my thing is it seems like... And I don't know where you... I don't know why you believe that. Maybe that's a different question altogether. But I'm curious how, maybe if you could try again and tie it back to this morality.
Yeah, sure.
If you can't prove logic with logic, you can't prove anything?
I can't prove anything as long as you don't believe in logic. So long as you...
Why? What's this obsession with logic? You seem really fixated on this logic. What if it's just, this table is... Or... you are sitting in front of me right now.
Yeah.
That doesn't require any logic.
That doesn't.
Whatsoever.
Oh, actually...
no, it doesn't.
It does.
How?
Because you're assuming that your visual receptors that are... I don't know what they're called, retinal or whatever. You're assuming that information that's being played onto your brain and being interpreted, you're assuming that's all correct.
That's my rational... I'm reasoning that, yeah.
Yes, based on logical principles. Because logical principles is based
So you're saying that every single rational claim...
Yes.
Is underpinned by
logic. I trust that it's true. And intuition that it's true. That's why I use the word intuition.
Right, but then you're also saying that unless you believe in logic, you can't prove that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
I'm really maybe it's just
it's one of those.
Yeah, I'm really not following.
Look, it's my fault that I brought up this kind of really brain rotted topic because it's kind of I'm
interested, but I just don't. I'm just not fully
Sure.
Yeah,
if you want, we can kind of pivot to what I was going to kind of tie it to.
Okay.
Because you kind of talked about how moral truths need an invigilator to kind of give them their...
Invigilator? No, I just mean that you need...
Designer, sorry.
There's got to be some sort of,
Design. Someone who designed them in such a way.
Or even just an inherent design purpose.
Yes. Yeah. And I would say that my argument is that is actually impossible by your worldview, and I'll kind of explain to you why. So let's say God there's a moral claim, and I keep using, I don't want to use the same example, but I will, about the stabbing a 2-year-old in the basement.
Yeah.
I don't have a basement, so don't go looking.
Yeah. Me either.
Okay. But let's say that in that example, God, someone who designed that moral claim, they could have designed it in two possible ways. Or that moral claim is only made true in two possible ways. One, God commanded it to be true, and therefore it is true. Or the second way is that it is true. God only commands that which is true. Does that make sense? So in that, I'll kind of make it clear. So,
I don't know if I even agree with those.
Yeah, sure.
Being the two options. Yeah.
So that's the dichotomy for me. If you have a third option, please let me know. But the idea is that when it comes to any moral claim, it's either moral because God said it was moral, or God only commands that which is moral.
Well, both can be true at the same time.
I don't think that.
Yeah, I think God can only command what is true, and something can be true because only God commanded it.
The problem is the second one relies on. So if the second one is true, that God only commands that which is moral,
mm-hmm.
that assumes as part of the statement that logical principles exist independently of God. Because if it were the case that he could, if it were the case that he could command something that we don't believe to be true, then that second statement wouldn't be true. And
hang on, maybe give an example, just because, this. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. So is it possible for God to say, that murdering a child is fine, for fun?
Is it possible?
Yeah.
It depends what you mean by that. If God is all good. It just is. If God is all good and he is all powerful and is all blah, 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 blah. then and that's his command, then that's the way it is. It's not about like a possibility of either or.
Right. So the point I was getting at with that is that claim can either have its truth value imbued into it by God, as in God, it's only true that it's wrong to do that because God says so, or it could also, or on the other hand, it could be the case that God is only commanding that thing because it's a good thing. Commanding not to do that thing because that thing is bad.
No, as in, like your two claims were, God only commands that which is true.
This is the dichotomy that I believe.
Yeah. And I'm saying that they're not. I don't think they're opposing at all.
Okay.
I think that they're both. They both can be true at the exact same time. That because God is true, all truth. Because God is truth, He only commands what is true.
If God
and because, and then whatever the other one was, the other way around. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So the point is for the second one, if God can only command that which is true, then He's
no. It's not that He can. It's that He does. God only commands what is true.
Yeah, so He only does command what is true.
Yeah.
That assumes that truth exists independently of God.
No, God is truth.
Okay, but that's kind of the point. Is that like, if God is truth,
He only commands what is true.
Is He omnipotent?
What, as in, are you just asking that generally?
Yeah, can He do anything?
Well, yeah.
So can He command something that you would consider not to be true? Like, it's okay to kill.
But doing anything doesn't mean doing what is false.
Sorry? Oh, no, sorry. Could he command something contrary to His nature?
No, because He's truth.
Doesn't that mean that He's kind of bound by an objective moral principle?
What do you mean? He is the objective moral. Like, well, as in, like. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
If God is the designer, my point is that if God is the designer of morality, if He commands morality, then that means it's subjective because He is the subject through which morality exists, and that means He's able to, in the same way that you write a book, He's able to change the descriptions inside the book. Therefore, He's able to change the moral content of a claim. If He can't do it, if He can't change a moral claim, like the one about the child in the basement, I would argue that that's an example of Him being bound by a set of moral principles.
Right.
So it's either.
So you think it's about can and can't? Is that what you're saying? You think that it's like he can do it or he can't do it, and then because he can or can't, therefore he's bound by.
So you're in a double bind. So if He can command it to be different, that means it's subjective, right?
But maybe this is just like I don't know. I'm just trying to think this through.
Yeah, sure.
If you're saying that God can't do something, that therefore he's bound.
Yes.
Okay.
He's bound.
So you think, and maybe we'll take it down, if you can't do something, then you're not free.
I would say that you're not. You're bound by a particular principle. Yeah. So in the same way, like. What if, and maybe this is the thing, if God is the principle, He can't be bound by anything. Exactly.
Yeah.
But then if He is the principle, and the only reason that principle exists is because He exists, that means the principle could have been otherwise. Because then that means.
But if He exists before time, and again, maybe this is all like maybe we just have different understandings of God, or maybe maybe it rests on the belief that God does exist. And if we're just assuming He does, assuming He does, then it does matter the kind of God that does exist. And I think maybe your understanding is like you're still seeing it of like God and then overarching principle. Rather, if God is the principle, or is the truth, or is the overarching, like there's no. That's why I'm struggling to understand what you. And that's why I took it down, because I'm like, is it just if you can't do something then you're free or you're limited? Is that what you're trying?
I don't. Like, yeah, I would say that the freedom is less important to my argument here. It would be more so the fact that there's two options here, right? Either God can change a moral claim that we accept to be fundamentally true, like stabbing each other in the basement.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the nature of truth is you don't change it. That's unchanging.
Exactly.
Right.
But the fact that it's unchanging is a testament.
You think the fact that it's unchanging means that it's
a testament to the fact that it exists outside of the thing.
Oh, okay.
Right. So if it's
wait that it exists outside the thing.
Yeah. If you're talking about God, so if it's true that you shouldn't kill a kid in your basement, right? If that is true,
it's unchanging.
Yeah, it's unchanging.
Yeah.
That means God is bound by that concept in the same way, and I don't want to use the L word here, but God can't create an unmovable force. Logic, sorry. God can't make an unmovable force and an unstoppable force and an unmovable rock. He can't do that.
I'm struggling to understand how you see unchanging as like binding or limiting on freedom. Like I don't understand. Yeah, so I guess that's my thing. Is like in what way is something being unchanging or always existing, always has existed, always will, for example? How is that like a limiting or yeah? Maybe that's just my question.
When I say that, it's unable to be changed. That's what I mean specifically.
So something is unable to be changed, which is the same thing as unchanging.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's more
like
specific that it's the capacity. Yeah, it's true. The first one, unchanging, follows from unable to be changed. Yeah.
So if you think that something cannot be changed,
as a principle, yeah. So let's say I have a book, right? And let's say that I'm writing this book, and then I have the capacity to erase the words and write a new book. If I couldn't do that, and I had to write a specific sequence of words, I would argue that I'm bound to the laws of that book. You can write whatever you want. Exactly. I can change it, right? I can write whatever I want inside that book.
Yeah.
And if I didn't like it, I could change that thing.
You could white it out or something.
Yeah, delete it, like boom, 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 and like whatever. That's the point. If you are the genuine and true author of that thing, then its laws is subject to your, your decisions, right? And if we're talking about morality in the context of God, I would say the same thing. If God is able to change the laws of morality, which means that erase claims like, oh, you shouldn't kill kids in the basement, and then make it therefore true that, instead make it true that you should kill kids in your basement, that means it would be ultimately subject to his will and his decisions. But if he couldn't, in the same way when you're writing a book and you're unable to change the context of the book, I would say that you'd be bound to the laws of that book. You'd be bound to the laws of some pre-existing truth.
Wait, so just to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
What if, and I'm not saying I believe this or don't believe this, and like with all these things that I'm saying, I'm not necessarily assenting to any particular.
Fair enough,
I'm just trying to engage with what you're saying.
Yeah.
If I play devil's advocate here and say, what if God could change morality, but he doesn't?
But he doesn't. Yeah, so if he could change it, then I would argue that is by definition, that would make morality by definition subjective. Because if he is able to change it, that means it's subject to his own decision-making processes. He's able to change it. If he can't change
How does it make it subjective? Just because like he's the one who's
because subjective by definition means it's subject to a particular
it's subject to
observer,
God.
To the subject.
But okay.
Yeah. So if he's able to, and so I don't think most people would agree that God could make it such that it was okay to kill kids in your basement for fun.
Okay.
And I think
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, sure. But do you agree with the statement that
I don't know. I haven't really thought this particular thing through. This is my that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to give you the most charitable interpretation of what you're saying.
Yeah.
I feel like it's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah. So if I'm playing devil's advocate and I say he could change it, you think that its truth would therefore be subjective because it's based on God's subjective will.
If he could change it.
If he could,
yes,
right.
Yes.
But then if you make the claim that he can't change it, you're saying...
he's bound by it.
Then
he can't edit it. Therefore, there's an objective principle that exists outside of God.
Why? But why? Why?
Because the fact that he can't change it would be a testament that if it's unchangeable, then it would be a principle that...
But how does that prove that? I think that's maybe where I'm not following is if God won't change it or can't change it, and again, I'm not saying I assent to any particular thing. I'm just saying if God can't change it, how does that prove that there's something else beyond God? Maybe that's my question or something outside. Like what? How does that prove that?
I'm not saying that there's something. I guess what I mean is that when I say he can't change it, it's a testament to the fact that it's a standard that exists independently of
How does it prove that?
Because if it weren't independent of God, then it would be by definition changeable. So it's the same.
If it weren't independent of God,
yeah, it would be by definition changeable. And I can kind of use this by using the logical example as well. So when we talk about you don't believe that God can make a square triangle. You don't believe that. I mean, I'm assuming here. I assume that.
I don't know. I don't make any assumptions about me.
Yeah. Okay, but,
make your claim. I'm just trying to engage with what you're saying. Again, I'm not saying I agree or disagree or anything because some of these things are new ideas to me.
Yeah, sure.
But and they're interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just trying to just sort of see where you're going with this.
Yeah. So I just want to gauge what you think. Do you think God could make an unmovable rock and an unstoppable force and have them meet each other?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Could he make an unmovable rock? Or a movable rock?
An unmovable rock and an unstoppable force.
Could he make an unmovable rock?
And an unstoppable force simultaneously.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't even... Maybe I'd probably need to think of a more concrete example.
Non-contradiction, because they kind of contradict each
other.
An
unstoppable force?
Yeah. Because if it met the unmovable rock, one of those things would have to be false. Both of them can't be simultaneously true.
Oh, right. Oh, so you're saying the unstoppable force hitting the unmovable rock.
Yeah, one of them would have to be false. Right. Because otherwise, law of non-contradiction.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah. So I would argue that because of that, God is bound by logical principles. He can't make logic in a particular way.
But what if that's our understanding of logical principles?
Yes, okay. That's
because they were created. Okay. They precede us.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But if you do believe that he created those logical principles, then by definition, you would have to say that logic isn't objective because it could have been otherwise.
I'm not really following. I don't see how that proves that.
So
how do you prove, if it could be otherwise...
I think that's my definition of objective.
You're just presenting two options and saying like it could be this, it could be this. But I'm saying like it's not. It couldn't be this or this. It's like it's either one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's one, then it couldn't be the other. So it is objective. And then so that's what I'm struggling to understand.
Well, my definition of objective, the word objective, means that couldn't be otherwise. Isn't
that's your okay? Well, maybe that's probably where I've been.
I should have kind of clarified that before.
Because I was trying to understand how does objective mean it can't be like I'm saying if something is objective, it is, and it's independent of what I believe, what you believe. It's like for example, you know this term gets thrown out like objective reality, right?
Yeah.
Like if something is real, it is regardless of what I perceive or experience or think, right?
But
it just is.
It couldn't be otherwise. It is.
Right.
Like right. That's
objective, and you're saying that is limiting, and that somehow proves that it's subjective, and that's the train of thought that I'm struggling to follow.
Yeah, so I'm kind of saying that moral claims could either be subjective or objective. Do you believe that?
No, and I'm saying and maybe you need an example for that. Like if murdering a child, an innocent child, is wrong, that's an objective claim.
It could be the fact that I subjectively perceive that to be an objective claim. But
I'm saying that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it either is or it isn't.
Okay.
Right, like stabbing a child, and maybe, again, you could get more controversial, but yeah, like murdering a child who's done absolutely nothing wrong, just sitting there on the floor and stab them.
Yeah.
And you say, well, you just subjectively perceive that that's objectively wrong. And I say, and I would argue, a lot
of people would.
A lot of people would probably argue. And even people without religion.
Yeah, sure.
And this is the thing, it's like,
sure.
I go and stab that innocent child, what's to say that that's not objectively wrong?
Okay, my argument right now isn't so much about whether that's objectively wrong yet.
But it matters to what you're trying to say, because you're basically saying that like if God, that if he's the truths that he, like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, if he's basically saying this is true, this isn't, the fact that he can't make something true or not true, like, I don't know. It's an interesting leap.
Yeah, sure. Well,
it's an interesting leap, and I'm curious.
Well, okay, we'll have to start at the baseline.
But if you want to pivot to another thing, like your
no, sure. I mean, it's up to you. Are you?
No, I don't mind at all.
Oh, cool.
Because I'm trying to follow, and
I told you it's going to be a bit of a mind.
No, it's interesting. It is really interesting. I've got a lot to think about, but I'm just not following the leap that you're making.
Yeah, sure. So. We have to start from the first step, which is: do you think things can are either objective or subjective? They have to
not everything, but I think in terms of morality, like
in terms of morality. Sorry, every moral claim has to either be subjective or objective.
I think so.
There's no third category, right?
Well, like for the purpose of our argument, I'll take the position
that
like something's objectively true, like murdering an innocent child is objectively.
Sure,
wrong.
But it could either be objective or subjective. There's no other options, right?
Yeah, but it's okay.
But you would say it's subjective.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start from there. I would say that in terms of the origin of moral claims, when I mentioned about how God could either commands things to be true, and to be moral, and that's what makes them moral, or either he only commands that which is moral. That's a mirror of the subjective objective thing. I don't know if I if you agree with that.
Agree with that.
I would say that if it's possible, if God only commands that which is moral, I would say that means that morality is an objective thing that exists outside of him.
Maybe Okay, and maybe that's because I just don't agree with either of those claims, and I don't even agree that that's the only dichotomy that exists, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if he is truth, then whatever he commands is true.
Yeah. Well, I have to kind of.
So he's not limited by anything. It's like he is. It's not if the essence of God is the truth, is this objective. Like he is, then it doesn't. There's nothing binding him. It's just whatever is commanded by him is biological, by that it is true. So it's I don't think that maybe that's because we're coming from a different starting point.
Wait, do we have the same definition of objective? Because when I say objective,
subjective aside, it's just like if God is truth, anything that he commands must be true.
Right.
Is true.
Right.
By its because he is the truth by his very nature.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So, and the truth isn't binding.
Yeah.
It's just it is.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah. I don't agree with that dichotomy.
Okay. Well, that things are either subjective or objective.
No. As in your dichotomy of like God commands what is true. I'm saying God is truth.
Yeah. So
that kind of like that's that kind of I don't know that doesn't fit into that dichotomy.
I would argue that's a kind of a formulation of the first argument, which is God commands that. Things are morally true because God commands it such. It's not that specifically. What you're saying is God is truth.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter who binds who. It's
sure.
That's what he is.
Sure, that's what he is. And things can only be true or false if they're in accordance with his nature or not in accordance with his nature. It essentially is what you're saying, I believe.
Yeah, keep going with you.
So God, it's not that God's commanding something; is that He is goodness and truth itself.
Yeah,
and then
and so the truth is in Him.
Yeah, and it's wrong to say He's commanding a truth, and therefore it's true.
That's why I'm saying that dichotomy is a little.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that, and that's more of a less personalized commanding. Like Sky Dad approach to God.
But it's not insignificant to your argument, and I guess that's my point. Is if you're saying that there's only this dichotomy and it has to be one of these two things, and I'm saying I don't actually agree because that's a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of God, and maybe the real debate is like the nature of God.
Yeah, no,
and maybe that's where I was kind of getting hung up because I was like, that doesn't.
Yeah. But I would argue that what the thing that you said is actually just still. The argument still works. It's just this different form I'll kind of explain what I'm saying. So when you were saying that God's nature is such that moral claims, he doesn't command them, but because he is truth, and therefore when a moral claim is true, it's just simply the reality is that it's in accordance with his nature. I can understand that, but then the question it just shifts. It becomes, can God's nature be otherwise? But that's what I'm saying. Like what's the leap that you're making is can God's nature be otherwise? Yeah. Well, if it's no, what does that mean for your claim? Is that what are you saying? You're saying because it can't be something else that therefore he's bound by some external principle. Yes. And I'm saying I don't understand how you're proving that. Yeah, well my point is that because I don't see that if God was, always will be, he's bound by absolutely nothing. And if he is truth, there's nothing binding him. And so anything he commands, he's not bound by anything. That's why and maybe that's that element of faith that like we kind of mentioned earlier is in the sense that can you prove the complete nature of God, like with beyond reasonable doubt, with all the evidence in the world, whatever. And maybe that's a different conversation, but I guess the leap that I'm making is like, if we're not having the same understanding of the nature of God, then this dichotomy that you're presenting doesn't work. In my opinion, like based on my understanding of your argument. That's true. I would say that my dichotomy relies on an understanding of God as someone who is a kind of a persona who commands things. Your understanding is that he's like
that's probably where
and your understanding of God seems to be more like he is the underlying nature and truth that
always was, always will be. Is. He is. Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense to separate him from moral claims because he is those claims. He is morality. He is truth. He's love. He's goodness.
Yeah.
And I can understand that, but then the question just shifts over to the nature of God, and my question is it possible for his nature to have been otherwise? Because he is omnipotent, right?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not understanding the question. Like, how could something that always was be any different?
Right, so it's necessary for him to be that particular way.
No, but he always was that way. It's not a matter of like, could it have been another way? It was just like he always was. So there was no beginning point of God.
Yeah.
That it could have gone this way and it could have gone this way. It's the idea. was always that way.
What if I use present tense? Can he be a different way?
But I'm saying, it doesn't fit that. It's you can't like kind of create a fork in the road in God, and that I guess that's my maybe this goes back to this like I don't know how you begin. What's your understanding of like the beginning of the world? If you don't believe in God,
that's a good question.
Was there kind of like just this beginning point, and it could have been this way, and it could have been this way, it could have been this way? Because my understanding would be if God is all powerful, et cetera, and he always was and he always will be, there was no beginning to God.
Yeah.
That's not possible. And so there was no like fork in the, and I'm using really simplistic language here, but there was no fork in the road where he could have gone this way and he could have been this way. That's why I'm struggling to like engage with this dichotomy, because I don't think it can really apply to a God who always was.
I understand, but I'm also kind of confused, because how do you hold simultaneously that he's omnipotent and also subject to his own nature? Because if he was omnipotent, then he would be able to change that nature at any point. He could make it such that he wasn't the way he is. Wouldn't he be able to?
But I don't know. I'm not.
And if he couldn't, wouldn't he be bound by another principle that's external to him?
Okay, let's just again. I'm still like maybe. Yeah, I'm still. Maybe we need to like go more into defining the terms, but. Yeah. If I did accept that, what are you saying is the external principle?
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah. And you're saying like what's just out of curiosity? I'm like, what's this external principle that you're talking about that God is subject to if he doesn't exist?
That was my argument, is that basically that morality, at the end of the day, is a principle that exists independently of anyone's influence. So
even God. So where does it come from?
It's just an objective principle.
From where?
But it's the same thing. Where does logic come from? I have to use it later. But where does logic come from? Like, God, as I was saying before, I think most, from what I've talked to Christians, Catholics, and everyone, not just Christians, Catholics, but everyone, they would say, if there was a God, he wouldn't be able to make a square triangle. He wouldn't be able to make simultaneously a unmovable force and an unstoppable rock. He wouldn't be able to break the laws of logic, because laws of logic exist independently of him. Where do the laws of logic come from? I think they just exist.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. And I didn't agree with that premise, right? That like we're just born with an idea of logic, and that's what I'm saying. I believe that we're born with a rational capacity, and that we have rationalized a logical, like a logic. That's what I'm saying. I feel like one is dependent on the other, and not the other way around.
Sorry, can I ask what you mean? What do you mean, like one's dependent on the other?
Like how, as I was saying, like your rational capacity precedes your ability to for logic.
But you do believe that logic as a system and as a concept exists independently of our ability to apprehend it, to understand it. Not apprehend.
I don't know. I don't even know if I don't know if I accept that or not. I haven't really. Honestly, I'd have to think about that. Okay. But I think, I'm just really confused. You're saying there's this overarching principle of morality.
Yeah.
It exists independently of you and I, but it has no source.
Yes, exactly. You don't believe in the source of God. I don't believe in the source of morality.
So where does it come from, and how do you know what's objectively true if it has no source?
Well,
so how do you know if I say to you, Christian, I stabbed that child, and you say, Teresa, hold on. There is an overarching principle that's objective, but it has no source, and there's no way to know exactly where it comes from, but I'm saying that it's objectively wrong.
I would argue that I could say the same thing to you. If I go and I stab a kid, and you say, hold up, there is a God who's completely ineffable, has no source, and just exists universally.
No, but he does have. God is the source. That would be my argument.
But he doesn't have a source.
That there is the source, because he always was, and that's the argument, is that you either fundamentally misunderstand the nature of God and therefore all morality, or you say he always was, always will be. He commands the truth, and if he is the source of objective morality, then you can make moral claims. If you don't have one, you can't, because where is the source of your morality?
Can things be sourceless? Can exist as
no.
They can't?
No.
So is God? How does God exist?
He always was and always will, and that's the nature of God. He is the ultimate source of everything.
Why can't I apply that same quality of always existing to a concept like morality?
And that's yours to prove, right? Is where does this come from? You're just saying I pull it out of the air, and I'm saying that the very fact that there are competing. The very fact that they're competing moral claims means that we can't both be right about this. And so one of us has to be wrong. And I'm saying, like, I'm claiming to have a source, and I'm claiming that there are really good rational arguments that source exists. Okay. To some degree, there is a leap of faith, and that's why it's faith. But I'm also kind of wanting to know, like, how does that look like in your day to day? Like if you come up to someone not that you're going around stabbing children on your day to day, but like if you have someone and you face someone with a competing moral claim, and let's say for argument's sake, I'm saying that murdering an innocent child is always wrong, and you're saying that that's and I'm trying to think of a good moral example, but one that's
not to do with children,
not to do with children, not to do with unborn children or anything like that. Like I'm trying to think. I don't know if you could think of an example, but just the very idea that there are competing moral claims means that they're and I guess that's what my challenge to you is. I don't believe you can just have something from nothing. I don't believe you can have this overarching objective morality principle that kind of guides your life that's sourceless and baseless. Yes, and I don't believe that.
I don't believe in objective morality. I believe in...
Okay, and maybe that's that's interesting.
I believe it's as objective as a concept like logic. That's what I'm saying. So
wait, say that again.
I don't believe in objective morality.
But that's an objective statement. To say that logic is intuitive...
That's a subjective statement.
No, it's not. You're saying that logic is intuitive. It exists no matter what I say, no matter what you think. That's an objective statement. So to make an objective claim like that, you have to believe in objective morality. Otherwise, how can I accept that?
No, as in I subjectively believe that.
Then it's not. Then it's not true.
No, that's the thing though. That's the thing. When I say if for something to be objective, you would have to be able to prove without any room for uncertainty that thing could not be otherwise. It has to be an eternal truth that couldn't be otherwise. I'm saying that because that's impossible to do.
And what you're really saying is it's impossible to prove the existence of God. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah.
Because if you can't prove the existence of God, then you have no real way to prove this objective morality.
Well,
so that's kind of what you're saying?
That was not really my... But we can go there. But it's more so... The argument is more so that in the same way that we can't prove anything to be true without relying on fundamental axioms, like even the very fact...
But the very fact that you're saying we can't prove anything to be true is an objective statement.
No, it's not though. That's the point. It is. What's objective to you?
Because you're saying to me, Teresa, we can't prove anything to be true. We can't prove anything to be objectively true. And I'm saying that's an objective statement. You're saying that objectively we can't prove anything to be true. It's a contradiction.
No, but that statement would only be objective if I could prove with all certainty that statement has to be true.
Right, so then nothing is true.
Then nothing is objective.
Okay.
Nothing's objective.
Okay, nothing is... Well, true... Well, okay, then what do you mean by true?
Right, so I believe there's truth that exists, right? Either you're in front of me or you're not. Right?
Yeah.
There probably is an objective state of the matter there. But because I can't ascertain any claim about the world with absolute certainty, I have no power to make that claim objective. In order to make that claim objective, you'd have to say something with absolute certainty.
But that's an objective claim. What you're claiming right now, sitting in front of me, saying that that's the case...
Yeah.
Is an objective claim.
Okay, so then...
So do you see what I'm saying?
So it's unprovable?
Well, I'm saying the fact that you're saying we can't prove anything...
Yeah.
The fact that you're saying we can't prove anything is you making a claim of truth.
A subjective claim. What's subjective?
So then you're saying... But then if I disagree with you, then what? Like, we can't both be right.
Yeah, but
so you're either wrong or you're right. And so what you're either claiming is an objective truth or you're wrong.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as... Like, for something like this, for something as fundamental as like the state of reality, you're either saying... We can't prove anything. That's an objective statement.
Yeah.
Or you're wrong.
I would disagree that it's an objective statement. I think that what makes it objective...
How is that not an objective statement?
The definition of objective, it means... it means that proven true is without...
So how can you prove that we can't prove anything?
That's my point. I can't. And that's why everything that I believe is technically subjective.
No, everything you believe is technically a contradiction.
Why?
Because you're saying that I can't prove anything. You're saying there's no way to prove that I can't prove anything. That's a contradiction.
There's no way to prove that I can't prove anything.
That's effectively what you're saying.
No, I have to think about that.
But then by making that, you're living in the cyclical logic. Yeah. You're saying I can't prove anything, and then you're saying therefore you can't. Like basically you're saying like I can't prove. Yeah. Okay, yeah, you can't prove anything, but I can't prove that I can't prove anything.
Yeah.
There's no way to be even sure of this claim that I'm making.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's an objective
contradiction.
Claim.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
why is it a contradiction?
Because you can't. What you're effectively saying is, you're effectively saying I can't prove anything, but you're making a statement that you're
a subjective statement that is not provable.
But how is that subjective?
Because I don't believe that statement is completely true and unfalsifiable.
So how can you live by that if you're saying like I'm not making I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
No, I do.
It's like saying like nothing is true,
No, I'm not saying that though.
Okay, but I'm like, let's just say that. Like if nothing is, or even for example, people don't have inherent value.
Yeah.
But I can't prove that people don't have inherent value.
Yeah.
What's the conclusion?
What's the conclusion? That I subjectively believe that people have
Inherent value.
But what if I subjectively believe that they don't?
Then that's your prerogative. That's my point.
Right. So okay. This is what I was really curious about. Is it just a matter of that's you and this is me and it doesn't matter, or is it a case of you're wrong and I'm right, or I'm right and you're wrong? Like what? Like
this is the issue. I think the issue is that we're not arguing about fundamental truth claims. I'm not saying that the fact of whether or not something's objective. Sorry, I'm really excited.
No, I'm on your train. I'm on your train.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the fact of whether or not something is true or not, when I use the word objective and subjective, I'm not using that as a reflection of the truth statement. So when I say that there is truth out there, I believe that there's an underlying fact of the matter. And I think there's two ways.
But that's a claim that you're making.
Yeah.
How do you prove that?
I can't. That's the thing.
So then how? Like,
Yeah.
But then how can you say that with any certainty?
No, I can't. That's the problem.
That's what I'm saying, and that's a contradiction.
No, but why is it a contradiction though? Because I don't have to have certainty. My point is that subjectivity means by definition that it comes from the idea that we don't have an all-knowing and infinite capacity to understand truths because we're limited by things like sense data, rationality, logic.
That's your definition of subjective.
Yeah, it's unprovable. Subjective means that a statement or a belief or something like that is by definition unprovable with absolute certainty.
Should we get up the definition of subjective?
Sure. I mean, Merriam-Webster style. I mean, we can do it. We can do that if you want.
Well, I'm just because that's not my exact understanding of subjective.
Sure.
I thought it was subjective. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to. But
Well, what do you understand subjective as?
It might be helpful, but I'm just thinking of like if something is subjective, honestly, I'd rather just see what the real definition is. So we can work with it.
On Google it says based or influenced by personal feelings, tastes, or opinions.
There we go. Yeah. That's the definition I'm working off.
Okay, well, essentially what I mean by subjective, it means it's
based on your feelings and emotions and experiences.
It's subject to an individual observer,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So anything that I believe...
Yeah, it's because of your feeling, or it's because of your experience.
It's because of my particular psychological constitution that I happen to believe a particular thing.
Yes,
And I happen to follow the intuitions that get me to believe that particular thing.
Yep.
But there's no way that I can go to someone else. If we have a fundamental disagreement about a fact of the matter, underlying reality, there's no way I can go, like maybe inherent value. I can't go to that person and be like, look, it's objectively true that this exists. And because I can't do that, therefore it's a subjective
claim. So how
claim.
can you make a single moral claim?
I can.
How? Because if it's subjective to me, I want to go on a stabbing rampage, and subjectively to me, my experience, my feelings, what I think, and then that's the sense data that I use to make those decisions. How on earth, if you have zero source of morality and you also have no way of proving it, you have this overarching. Well, you don't have a source. You don't, and unless you can prove it to me, which you haven't yet. But you don't have a source of morality.
We have a source for God.
How can you make a single moral claim if all moral truths are based on personal experience and feeling? My personal experience and feeling is that I'm stabbing 5 people and there's no moral.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and yours is, well, it's wrong, and I can make a claim because I've got this amorphous blob in the atmosphere that is like this overarching principle of truth, and like you must listen to that. But then you're making an objective claim.
No, I'm not.
That is, it's a contradiction. You can't make an objective moral claim if you're saying that all moral claims are subjective. You can't do that.
I'm not making an objective claim.
But you are. You're saying I shouldn't go stab 5 people, innocent people.
Yeah, but that's a subjective claim. So when I say, the difference is that I can make claims about the truth, about reality, about morality, and I can also simultaneously say that I have no way of proving that this is absolutely true.
So then you shouldn't make a single moral claim if you don't believe that it exists independently of you.
Why? We're having a disagreement right now.
Because I want to stab 5 people.
Yeah, no.
Why can't I stab 5 people?
You can absolutely do that, but that doesn't mean it's okay. That doesn't mean it's okay.
Why not? Why not?
Because I would say that there's something wrong. But
why?
Why
but I say it's not.
Because if you say it's wrong,
I say it's not wrong to stab 5 innocent people.
That's the nature of subjectivity. Try and prove.
So then, how on earth? Then you would completely disagree with the entire legal system, because you would say, well, everyone should be able to stab who they like or do what they like. Because or either that or you impose your subjective morality on everyone.
Exactly.
Right.
But it happens to be the case that...
So that's an objective claim.
No.
Yes, that you're right and that you should apply that to everyone.
It's a subjective claim. And the reason that one side wins over the other... Like, let's say there's an army of baby killers.
But you're making you're like... I don't know if you're like, you're making an objective claim about subjective reality. You're basically saying like all truth is subjective, or all moral claims are subjective. That's your claim.
They're as subjective as my intuition about logic.
No, okay, that's not. I'm not trying to make any comparisons. Is your fundamental claim? All moral claims are subjective.
Yeah,
or,
but this
is that your claim?
But there needs to be a qualifier, because I'm saying they're as subjective as the fact that the Earth rotates around the sun. They're as subjective.
That's not what I'm asking. What's your fundamental claim?
Yeah, it is subjective.
Don't add the as blah blah blah. Like your fundamental claim is that all moral claims are subjective.
Yes.
And that by definition is an objective claim.
No, it's not.
And that's a contradiction.
I'm subjectively saying that it's a subjective claim. That
doesn't even make any sense.
Why doesn't it make sense?
Because you can't say that. Because that's not true.
But you have to be work within my definition of what objective means.
And it means that it exists independently of your thoughts, feelings, and experiences.
No.
What's your definition of objective?
Get
the definition of objective up then.
Right. Okay.
We need to be working off the same definitions.
No, that's true, but when it comes to philosophy, I don't think we can use Merriam-Webster, but we can try.
Or just whatever definition that we got. We've got to work with something.
So objective refers to something based on facts and evidence, while subjective refers to something based on personal opinions. When I'm using the word objective, and we can work from, if you want, this is because we really have to work from each other's perspectives. But when I say objective, specifically what I'm saying is that a claim that is absolutely 100% true, provable to be true, and there's nothing we can do to undermine that claim. However,
and even if you can't prove it, it exists outside your ability to prove it. That's objective. Like, it doesn't matter your rational capacity. Like a baby, a baby has zero rational capacity to see that stabbing a person is wrong. Just because the baby can't perceive that doesn't make it any less true. Just because the baby can't logic that, just because the baby can't understand that, doesn't mean that
absolutely
is. So that's objective. That is true, independent of that individual's experience or knowledge of that truth.
But
that's objective.
Yeah, but my claim is that you subjectively believe that, and in order to prove, how would you be able to prove that statement with absolute certainty? Is my question.
But how can you prove what you're saying with absolute certainty?
I can't. That's why it's subjective.
So then no one is right.
No, that's not necessarily the case. Well, okay.
Do you see? Like, I don't know if you see how like the contradiction.
No, I do. Because you're.
How do you resolve that?
You're trying to say that no one can. There is an underlying truth, and I'm claiming there is an underlying truth, right? And you're
but
saying,
from where? That's what I'm saying.
Well, where does God come from? Like,
then that's a separate. Well, at least I'm arguing that my source of truth has an origin.
Yeah,
and has a source. Yours doesn't have a source.
God doesn't have a source. He is the origin.
That's what I'm saying. He is the source. I have a source.
Why can't I play that same quality for morality? Why can't it be its own independently, self-sustaining source?
Because there's no such something can't come from nothing. You can't have a sourceless source. But that's what I'm saying. That's the nature of God.
Nothing. Sorry, always existed.
Always was, yeah.
Why can't I say the same quality for something like
that's yours to prove. That's what I'm saying. Like, if I can argue that the nature of the God that I believe in is or has always existed and always will, that's the source. You don't have one, so you don't have any legs to make any moral claims.
How can you?
And you can't even make any objective statements. And I'm saying I can.
Yeah, okay. My when I'm saying objective. We have to use the right words here, because when I'm saying objective, when I'm talking about a claim like, you shouldn't be able to kill whatever, and you say to me, I believe that you can kill whatever, right?
Yeah.
We can't resolve that disagreement. It's impossible. How would you?
But what do you mean by resolve? Okay, and maybe the more important question is one of us right and is one of us wrong?
I believe subjectively that one of us is right.
So then, hang on, wait. So you believe that one of us is right and one of us is wrong, and then what if Elizabeth says you're both wrong? Or you're both... No, what if Elizabeth says you're both right?
That's the point. How would I be able to go around... How would I even begin to go around the process of trying to say that...
So how can you make a single claim if you can't prove anything?
That's the thing. You can make a claim with a plus or minus degree of uncertainty.
So you can't know anything to be true then?
Exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. But you're saying... But the very statement that I can't know anything to be true is a claim to truth.
I might be wrong about that. So it's not a claim to truth. It's not a claim that this is absolutely 100% undeniably true.
So you're saying that absolutely nothing can be true. And then I'm saying by that logic, no one can make any moral claim because you cannot know with any real certainty or that anything is true or anything is untrue. So it's not untrue or true that stabbing an innocent child is wrong. You cannot, and that's the thing, as someone who doesn't believe that there is any real, as in, if you're making a moral claim and you don't have and you're saying that there's no way to know if it's true or not, you have no right to make a moral claim on anything. You have no right to say that stabbing an innocent child is wrong.
The difference is...
Because you're saying you can't know if it's true or not.
Okay, This is the thing is, if I'm a scientist and I'm trying to find out the underlying truth of reality, right? We have theories and we try to prove those like theories.
Well, I'm talking about morality.
Yeah, no, I know.
Because this is different.
I know. But when I make a claim, I can never prove science with absolute certainty because there's always a degree of possibility that it might be wrong. And that is all I'm saying when it comes to a claim about morality. When I'm making a claim,
morality and science.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's true. Okay, even if it's morality, if I'm making any claim about the universe, there's always a little cache. Is that the idea that it's possible for me to be wrong? It's possible, technically, that when we're looking at each other, we're actually in a vat. We're in the matrix somewhere. Is there any way of you proving that that's not the case? You can't. So therefore, there's always a little cache, like a little gotcha, or not gotcha, whatever the word is.
Disclaimer.
Just a little disclaimer.
Yeah.
So it's like
caveat.
Like I believe this is true, and there's always a possibility that it might not be true, and that's the way I work with morality. I'm making claims. The only difference is I can still make those claims, but I can't just be like, this is 100% true. I believe it is, but how am I supposed to go around the process of saying, it is?
Okay, so what you're saying is you can make a moral claim, but every single one of your moral claims is founded on the belief that you actually don't even know if this is a true moral claim.
Not just morals. Everything in the universe. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So I'm saying, so then you cannot with any certainty say it's wrong to stab a child.
Yeah. But neither can you with
an innocent child. Yes, I can.
But neither can you with any certainty say...
I can say it with certainty because
not that claim, but you couldn't. But you can't say to me that... You cannot say with any certainty that we're having this conversation right now.
But let's stick... Well, because that's a separate argument. That's a very separate argument. I'm talking about specifically moral claims. I can say with certainty killing an innocent child is always wrong. And it's unchanging. And it doesn't matter if I lose that belief or if you lose that, or if you don't believe that. That's the truth. And I'm saying that...
How do you prove that?
That's a great question. And then that goes into the overarching question of where does morality come from? Who is the author of truth? Who is truth? Is God real? Yeah. And there's all these other follow-up questions. But at least I've got the source,
the foundation,
right? And I have that source and I have that foundation. And I do believe there are really strong rational arguments for that. And again, we could get into that if you really want to. But what I'm saying about your claim is that the very idea that you can't know anything to be true with any real certainty is a statement of certainty. Because you're certain that you're uncertain.
I'm not certain.
You're certain that you can't be certain.
No, I'm not.
What are you saying then?
That claim could be wrong as well. Everything could be wrong.
So then, okay, hang on. But here's what I'm saying. So you're either certain that you can't be certain about anything, or you're certain that you're uncertain, or so you're certain that you're not certain about anything.
I'm not certain that I'm uncertain about anything.
So then what's your claim?
I'm claiming that I'm uncertain about everything, but even that claim in and of itself is an uncertain claim because I can't know anything with absolute truth. That's my point. Is that there's nothing that. So this is what.
But the very claim that you're uncertain about being certain about being uncertain is a claim
of certainty.
Because you're saying like it could be some other way. That's what you're saying.
I'm always having that disclaimer though. That's the point. I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong that claims are that my claim to uncertainty is.
So you're just basically saying I could be wrong about everything.
But that's the point. It doesn't really matter because in the same way that I'm willing to suspend disbelief and say, look, I'm talking to you, you're talking back to me. We're probably not in the matrix. We're probably actually talking to each other. So let's just say, for all intents and purposes, let's just say it's objectively true that we're talking to each other. That's the sort of thing I'm doing with morality. When it comes to making a moral claim, it's possible that I might be wrong about this.
That's crazy. So you're saying it's possible that stabbing an innocent child isn't wrong.
How would you prove that?
That to me is like the most unbelievable claim because that's what I'm saying. Like to make a moral that I think is and this is what we were talking about before. This idea that like something could be true and something could not be true. And I'm saying you have no right then if you're saying that murdering an innocent child is wrong.
Yes.
But you're saying I actually have no way to be sure of that.
It's a disclaimer.
Then I would say to you. Then you have no right to make a moral claim.
No,
you have no right to make a moral claim because you can't say with any certainty that that's wrong or right, which means you are open to the fact that that's a changing truth. I am not. I am not open to the fact that murdering an innocent person is a changeable truth.
I don't think it's a changeable truth.
But you're saying you could be wrong about it. You believe that it's wrong, but it might actually not be right.
Exactly.
Then you're wrong.
You think this is the problem? I don't think you.
It's either true or it's not, and you're wrong or you're right. No. That's it. It's not that complicated.
You're denying the ability to make a subjective claim about objective.
No. I'm saying there's an objective claim that murdering an innocent person is wrong.
Which you are subjectively
No,
convinced
and
is
you
true.
either know that it's true or you don't.
But the point is, in the
Subjective is completely separate.
No,
you
it's
either
not.
know that it's objectively true or you do not.
How? Because the same thing is, how do you know?
That's a great question.
Because how do we know? I want you to tell me, how do we know? Sorry, this is all good fun.
Yeah.
How do we know? When I was, and I know you don't want to go back to the logic thing, but this is the same intuition kind of foundation that
I think because I don't fully grasp what your
Yeah, right,
argument was there,
yeah.
maybe we'll just stick to the moral.
Okay, it's kind of
explain to
let's
me.
do it in terms of when I'm talking about the Earth orbiting the sun, or the fact that we're having this conversation, all of those claims that I make about the world, about there's people around me, there's things around me, this, that, whatever, all of that is like I'm willing to say, with all intents and purposes, for common parlance, that it's objective. I'm willing to say that, even though
But you don't say that.
I'm willing to say that.
Your willing is different than you are
But
saying.
the thing is, I technically can't.
Why?
And neither can you.
Yes, I can. I can say that.
Wait. I want
yeah.
to be specific. Can you say?
Yes.
Can you say with absolute certainty that we're having this conversation right now?
Well, I can say and this is what I'm saying. I think it's important because these are two different arguments. If we're talking about,
I want that specific one though, because I just want.
I can say with absolute certainty that we're sitting here.
Yeah.
No, that I'm having this conversation.
Am I having this conversation?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
How do you know that? How do you know that we're not in a vat?
Well, I think, and again,
Yeah.
I think that's a separate argument.
Why?
But
I don't think it is.
I do think it is because we're both the morality argument is based on our ability to argue over moral issues and moral claims presupposes or is assumed that we both believe that we're sitting here having a conversation.
Yes.
We couldn't be having this argument if we didn't believe that. So we do.
That's why.
Right.
That's my point. That's
Yeah.
why, for all intents and purposes, we just say we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But this is why it's like a conversation where it's not as.
And you think there's absolutely zero way to prove that we are literally here right now.
Yes. I mean, it might be possible if we had a VAT testing machine, but how would you test if that VAT testing machine is true?
All right, and that's an interesting train of thought.
Yeah.
But back to the more pressing, I think is more important issue is that, like, again, we're presupposing this. We
Yes.
could go down that path, but if we're going to go back to the moral thing, because I think that is more important, because it does tie into like all the political issues and the cultural issues, and I think that this is like the key, and I think the fact that like there's even this division is what's responsible for I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but whatever is happening today in the culture, I think is the thing that's underneath it all is this belief that you don't know anything and that you can't make, and that then therefore you can't really make any moral claims with any real certainty.
But my problem is that
I think that's problematic.
my issue is that I don't think it should be a problem, because all it is a disclaimer. That's all it is. All I'm saying I'm as certain in my claim that it's wrong to kill a child in the basement as I am that we're having this conversation.
So you think,
and in the same way I'm able to suspend disbelief and just assume that we're having this conversation, I'm able to suspend disbelief and just say, look,
I don't get that, but that's you're making a
but
claim.
you're doing it as well.
No, I'm not. I'm saying.
You're suspending
Murdering an
disbelief.
innocent child,
Yeah.
like murdering an innocent child, is an objective wrong. It has to be. It has to be.
Why does it have
Right?
to
It
be?
has to be because either one of us is right or one of us is wrong. It's not a matter of we look back on history and we think, oh, is it the case that we've been not murdering innocent people or saying that murdering innocent people is wrong, and we've actually been wrong about it this whole time, and we should be able to kill whoever we want.
It's possible.
You're saying that that's possible.
Of course it's possible.
And I'm saying that that's not possible.
Well, I would argue.
Because that's the nature of objective truth. And that's what I'm saying. This, the source of the truth that I'm claiming to believe is objective. It exists whether or not I believe it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this is the thing.
The difference between us is that I also believe that those things, I subjectively believe that there is a truth of the matter to morality. But because I can't because I can't prove it, I therefore have to render it as simply a subjective statement, and I can't give it the extra standing as being an objective statement. That's all it means. And I believe that the issue you have when we're saying it is sourceless, I would say that's the same issue applies to the idea of it coming from a god.
No, it doesn't. Very different. I'm actually claiming to have a source. You're claiming that it comes from the universe or in the air.
But by definition, if it has a source and it's part of God's nature, then it's subjective because it's subject to God's nature.
No, it's not. But if God is truth, it's not subject, and that's where you're. And maybe it's because you're using different definitions of subjective and objective than I am.
No. Because if you
Let's stop using those words.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if you were to say God is truth, if you were to say God is truth,
and truth, like they're inextricably linked. You can't separate these two things, and therefore you would have to by definition say that God, being truth and everything, could be this, but the fact that it is subject to the very nature, his very nature. But if you were to say that his nature could only be one way, that means you're, by definition, asserting that truth exists.
Yes.
And he's abiding by something.
No, he is truth. Like it's not like God is dependent on truth being real. It's that truth is because God is.
Okay. Because or is God?
Truth is both. Truth is God, and our capacity to know truth exists insofar as our capacity to know God.
Yes. That's my problem though.
Well, I really want to
go ahead.
I really want to
I'll
know what you're trying to say. Like, can you not understand how
it's cold.
for you to say there is no so you're saying there is objective truth, but there's no way for you to be sure of it.
I subjectively believe there's an objective truth in the matter.
What does that even mean? Like, break that down, because I'm not sure what you're saying. You're making an objective claim, but then you're throwing the word subjectively in there just to make it sound like I'm not making any real claim. And I'm saying you are making a claim, and the very fact that you're making a claim to something objective that is true, you're saying like it's true that we can't know anything.
Yes.
And I'm saying
I subjectively
that
believe
is a cyclical argument.
No,
your argument is completely cyclical.
But I'm not saying that with certainty. I'm curious.
But that's what I'm saying. But then you're saying something with certainty, but with no certainty, but with certainty.
I'm not saying anything with certainty.
That's my point. Then you can't be right about it. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
this is the point. Like, do you know what I mean? Can you still mean what I mean by like subjective? Do you like? Because I'm curious. Because I think we might.
It's just I'm going off that definition. It's based on your feelings and experiences.
Yes.
You're believing something.
Okay, that's what you believe it.
Yeah.
Okay. When I say the word subjective, this is what I specifically mean. I mean that.
We need to use the same definition.
I know, but this is the.
You can't make up a definition.
No, but
then you got to use a different word.
That word subjective that you read in the dictionary is used for common parlance. That's what we're talking about. When we're talking about underlying philosophical concepts, you can't use Merriam-Webster because.
It's not Merriam-Webster. It's just we either agree on the definition. Then you got to pick a different word.
The point is, the dictionary is defining words in the way they're used in common parlance.
So okay, hang on. So you want to reject that definition of subjective?
No, I'm just adding to. I'm using a philosophical, more specific
I'm saying you
definition.
can't do that. I'm saying you either use the definition or you use a different way of describing subjective. I'm saying it's not.
But why is this definition relevant to a conversation about philosophy?
Think maybe it would have been important to define the terms at the beginning because maybe that's what's led to my difficulty to follow your intellectual train of thought because it's like I'm not using the same definition that you are and you're using a word that has a definition and if you want to reject the definition that's fine but you got to say that because otherwise I'm using this definition.
No one in philosophical discussion ever uses that definition. In a specific way.
Well, I'm just saying because we're using language that and our words have definitions.
Yeah, I'm still technically.
I'm saying I'm using words that have definitions. If you wanted to divert from the definitions. You have to you got to make that clear at the beginning of your argument.
Well, technically, I'm using the same definition. I'm just appealing to the fundamental underlying concept about what makes.
You're appealing to what you think are the fundamental underlying concepts. So I'm saying use the word or describe it.
I'll be specific because it says the word subjective means based on an opinion.
Based on your feelings and personal experience.
An opinion means something that is unverifiable. It is something that I believe. And I can't say with absolute certainty it's true.
No, I don't agree with that. That's not what an opinion is.
What is it then?
Read out the definition of subjective there again.
Sure, absolutely.
You can reject it. Also, do you want to turn the light on?
Yeah. Wait, 1 second.
Because I was like, it went dark. Is it?
Yes.
Okay, good. How long have we been going?
It's been a while.
Oh my god. No, this is interesting. This is really interesting. I feel like I'm realizing now why I wasn't getting what you were saying is because we were using different definitions. If you want to reject,
I'm not rejecting it. I'm using it in its more in a more fundamental sense.
Then you got to say that from the beginning because in the same way that we're using words and like talking to each other and we're assuming that we're using the normal definition of the words is the same with a word like this.
The way I'm using it is technically how every philosopher has ever
used
it.
No, you're extrapolating abstract principles that you're and you've admitted to that. But I'm saying if you're going to use that, it's based on your feelings and your experiences. And it's not, and then you can't say that it's opinion.
What brings feelings and experiences and opinions all together?
Well, I'm saying you're conflating opinion with subjective or an objective. You're conflating opinion with subjective belief, and I'm saying they're not the same thing.
What is the quality that differentiates subjective from objective?
Something that's objective is true, independent of my experience or feeling or knowledge of that thing.
Okay.
So that God exists, but by his very nature, means that he exists objectively. It doesn't matter if you believe in him, he's real. He exists.
Okay.
It's the same with morality. And this is the most important part, is that something is morally wrong regardless of what you subjectively feel or what you experience as wrong. I don't experience stabbing 5 innocent people as wrong. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you experience.
There is a fact that matter.
It is objectively wrong to kill an innocent person.
So what is
in all circumstances?
And what's the difference between subjective and objective?
But that's what I'm saying. Subjective is your feelings and your experiences and like what you feel about something versus how something actually is.
Okay.
Which is independent of those feelings. So it doesn't matter what you feel.
Yeah.
It is.
That's exactly how I've been using the word subjective.
No, you're saying that. No, okay. Well, then how? But then what's your argument then? Because you're saying I'm subjectively saying that objectively this.
Yes.
So I'm saying be really clear.
My thoughts.
Be really clear.
Yeah. My thoughts, opinions, and feelings about this matter is that it's an objective truth. That it's wrong.
Say that again. Say that again.
My thoughts, opinions, and
feelings.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That's all the word subjective.
Yeah.
So I'm using that interchangeably.
Yeah. So your feelings say that.
I believe that it's true that this is the case.
That what is the case? That killing an innocent person is wrong. But what if I say my feelings and beliefs say that this isn't objectively wrong?
That's the point.
And so we come to a head.
Yeah, we both have subjective disagreements.
And
there's an objective case of the matter.
Exactly.
Yes.
So one of us has to be wrong and one of us has to be right.
The difference is the very fact...
My feelings don't matter.
But the very fact that we believe there's an objective case of the matter is a subjective thing that we believe.
No, it's not. Because
it is.
No, because that goes against the nature of objectivity.
No, because it relies on...
No, I defined objectivity as something that is independent of my feelings.
But how would you be able to know that something is even possible to be objective?
Exactly. And that's my argument.
It relies on someone. It relies on someone.
Yes, it relies on a source.
It relies on a source. Someone who is using logical intuitions,
No, it relies on a source of...
We're using logic to believe that something's objective, right?
Well, you believe... No, that's your belief of the source of objectivity. My belief of the source of objectivity is objectivity truth
My
itself.
belief of the source of how we come to know that, to believe that something can be objective.
That's different. That's not the same thing.
Okay, well
the source of something being objective and the fact that something is objective is independent of how I come to know that.
Okay.
They're very different things.
Okay, but the thing is, we are unable to come to know anything with certainty. Therefore, we are unable to come to know anything with objectivity.
Okay, and so I'm saying, you cannot say then, my feelings say that stabbing an innocent child is wrong. And I would say, that is a logical, or not a logical, I'm not even going to use that word. That's a trigger word. I'm saying you can't make that claim that killing an innocent person is wrong based on your feelings. Because I'm saying feelings don't determine something that is true objectively. And that's what I'm saying. You're saying, but my feelings could be aligned
and opinions.
With
I'm saying
feelings, opinions, sensory data, whatever it is that you want to say. I'm saying that like the very claim that you're making, like the nature of an objective truth cannot, like isn't what's the word? Isn't compatible with your definition. That's what I'm saying. Again, let's take the example. Murdering an innocent child is always wrong. You're saying, I feel like it is wrong.
Yes, I feel like it's objectively wrong.
Yeah, I feel like it's objectively wrong. So you're saying that something is objectively wrong.
Yes, and I'm making a subjective claim.
But you're saying the only way to know that something's objectively wrong is by your feelings.
Yes.
And I'm saying that is literally not the definition of something that's objectively wrong. The definition of something that's objectively wrong is it is objectively wrong,
independent
regardless of how you feel.
Yes.
Right. So then the objective, basically the whole point of this conversation or this pursuit or this of your life journey is to how can you discover what is objectively true, or how can you get as close to the objective truth as possible? And then this is where we get to the question of source or origin, is that you're saying my feelings are the only way to get to what is true, and I'm saying
by definition you can only know things.
And I'm saying that's to get to truth. I'm saying your feelings, your knowledge, whatever. But I'm saying what's left out of the subjective definition is if subjective is feelings and what is it?
Feelings, opinions, and
feelings, opinions,
and when feelings, opinions, and whatever.
Yeah.
The idea is that it's all relative to a subject. That's where the word comes from. A subject is experiencing those things. That's where the word comes from.
Yeah, of course.
It's subject to the person.
But I don't disagree with that. I'm saying like obviously you have feelings about beliefs and you have feelings about opinions and things like that.
The point is,
but you could also be wrong.
I'm absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what you're saying is that there's objective claims about the universe, and the definition of objective
it's true regardless.
It's true independently of how we feel about it.
Yeah.
But the only way, this is the point, that we can get to know whether that thing is true is through our own subjective experiences and rational.
No, I think that you can use your rational capacity to I don't think that comes under subjective.
Can you prove rationality and logic?
Well, and that again, that's a different question. But you're making a rational claim that there is no way to prove rationality, and I'm saying that is a contradiction. You can't say we can't prove rationality, and you're making a rational like. Do you see what I'm saying? Like you're making a rational claim.
Yes.
But for me to accept that rational claim, we both have to accept that rationality is real.
Exactly.
So I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So you're the one living in the contradiction. I'm the one saying that there is rationality.
No, all I'm doing is making the same claim that you are with just a whole bunch of disclaimers.
No, all you're doing is
with a whole bunch of disclaimers.
No, you're not having a whole bunch of disclaimers. You're basically saying nothing can be known.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Unless I feel it.
I think, therefore I am. Descartes.
And I'm saying that is not what objective truth is. That's what even knowing what objective truth is.
That's not what it is.
No.
But it's the only way you can get to know.
And I'm saying that that's not true.
Well, okay, but this is the point.
Because there's so much more than you're feeling.
But this is the point.
There's your knowledge, your rational capacity.
Yeah, exactly. In order for me to believe something about objectivity, I would have to assume that my logic is correct.
No, that your rational capacity. That you have a rational capacity.
The rational capacity is based on logical principles.
No. The fact that you have a rational capacity precedes.
Yeah, but it's based on logical principles.
No, it's not. The logical principles. You can only have logical principles because you are rational. That's it. Period.
Yeah, that's,
same as a dog.
True.
A dog can follow logic, but they don't have a rational capacity.
Yes, you can only have your logical principles if you're a rational creature that can comprehend those logical principles.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that the rationality causes the logical principles. The logical principles are the baseline of rationality.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, it's important.
We're back here.
It's important.
But I think the most important thing is that you're saying that the only way to know something objectively is a feeling, and I'm saying that that's not true.
A subject. We can only observe the world through a subject.
Through our feelings and experiences.
We're not.
Yeah, and I'm saying we've got a brain, and we've got an intellect.
And so my point is that we have logical intuitions that say.
No, we have a rational faculty.
Okay, I don't mind saying rational either. Okay. I don't actually mind. We can say rational if you want.
Okay.
Because we're going to disagree on this way. Whether we have rationality or logic, we believe that our rationality is correct, right? We have that assumption.
Well, we have a ration. We are rational.
Yeah, we are rational, and we believe that that's correct.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't, then we couldn't think about or talk about anything.
Right.
We have to assume that's correct. And in order to have rationality, so once we have that rational principle, then we can go discussions about stuff, and then we can talk about objectivity, and we can say, oh, this is objective.
But you're making everything that you just said.
Yeah.
You're making a truth claim.
No.
I have to accept that everything you're saying is true.
What I'm saying is that everything in that process is technically deniable. It is not unfalsifiable.
Okay.
And because of that, that's why I'm saying I'm just making the same claim as you. There's a whole bunch of disclaimers. I'm just saying that.
But you're saying a whole bunch of disclaimers like that doesn't matter significantly to your argument. I don't have disclaimers because objective truth can't have disclaimers.
How do you know objective? How can you know something that's objective because you're a subject, right?
Without your feelings.
Are you a subject? Like we're subjects.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We're subjects, right? And so we have this opinion about not opinion. You would say that we have this understanding that things are objective, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have this understanding that things are objective, you can only come to know it through your
rational faculties,
which are subject to you, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any way of knowing whether those rational faculties are correct or not?
But I think there is an important distinction that your ability to rationalize is different than your ability to feel, and that you can have a rational thought independent of your feeling. I feel like not getting out of bed.
Yes.
But my rational faculties say getting out of bed is good, and whatever, etc. It's going to make me healthy. Blah 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 blah. You can make the distinction, and you're simply saying that every rational belief that you have is subject to your feelings, and I'm saying that that's not the case, and all you have to do is think about the example that I just gave you. That's the conflict between the feeling and the rational mind.
I'm not saying that rational claims are subject to your feelings. It can only be known through a subject interpretation of the world. That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying.
Hang on.
So I'll be clear. When you're making a rational claim, you're assuming that you aren't. I don't want to say the R word. You're not dumb, right? You're assuming that you're not dumb. But you've met a kid, right? They can make the most stupid, dumb claims about the world.
But they could be right. You're saying by your logic, they could be right.
No, but this is the point. Like, as people who 99% of us agree on specific logical intuitions about things and about rational stuff, we agree that like Brian's dog always has fleas. Brian has fleas. We agree that it's a true statement. A kid.
I don't. All dogs don't have fleas.
No. But given that those first two premises are true, if they were true, then the conclusion must follow that Brian is a dog that doesn't have fleas. Oh, sorry, that Brian has fleas.
Yeah, I was like, wait.
So Brian is a dog. All dogs have fleas. Therefore, Brian must have fleas. I'm not saying that the two premises are true, but I'm saying given that they are true, if they were true, the conclusion must follow.
Look, I'm trying to find a common ground.
Yeah, no. I'll
yeah.
branch out. But do you agree with that? Like that it must be the case that is.
I don't know. I don't know because I want to see where you're going with this.
Okay. Well, my point is that for that claim to be true, we just all know it to be the case. But it's possible there's a kid out there, right? There's a kid who doesn't have that same intuition, and they think, "Oh, Brian doesn't have to have."
So I'm saying intuition is the wrong word.
But this is the point. This is the point. That kid hasn't developed the rationality to be able to understand these logical principles. As you said, rationality precedes logical principles. The kid doesn't have the ability to understand that because he doesn't have the rationality.
No, they do. He does have the rationality to.
As a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old.
Yeah, he will. That's what I'm saying. He does, but that doesn't mean that like he never. But what you're saying is he just will never be able to.
No, he will. He will. But
right
now
but
he
at
doesn't.
what point?
When he has enough, his brain is complex enough to be able to understand.
But what do you mean by that? Like, how does your brain become complex enough?
At the same point that you started to believe in rationality and you started to understand it, there was some point where you just, it happened, right?
I don't know. I don't even know if I accept that because I'm saying that there are people with like intellectual, they're not able to reach rational conclusions. Does that mean?
That's my point.
Right.
So we understand them to be wrong, right? In the same way, we have no idea about whether we're correct about our own intuitions. That's why I'm saying.
How can you be correct about anything?
That's right.
So how can you be correct that murdering an innocent child is wrong?
This is my point.
That's my point.
No, this is my point. We can't say it with certainty because we have no way of knowing that those logical...
So you can't tell me that murdering an innocent child is wrong with any certainty.
This is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say I am just as certain as that claim.
No,
I can say this.
Yes or no question.
I can say
It's a
this.
yes or no
I
question.
can say this because this is exactly
It doesn't make any sense.
It does make any sense.
With a statement.
It does make
yes
sense.
or no. Can you say with any certainty that morally murdering an innocent child is wrong?
Not with absolute certainty,
Okay,
but with
and that's where I'm
99.9% certainty.
Okay, but that 0.1%, you're saying that like it's insignificant. I'm saying the fact that you cannot say that with any certainty means you cannot make a moral claim with any certainty. So who are you to say that that's wrong?
That's the thing. Wait, sorry, that jump there. That jump
Yes.
there. Okay, you're relying on the fact that you have to be certain about something for you to argue anything.
No, for you to make a moral claim,
You have to have certainty? You have to have certainty? You have to?
well, I think you
Why?
should.
Well, okay, what if a Muslim...
Because you could be locking somebody up, an innocent person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How? Okay, there's many people around the world right now that have different moral principles to you.
They're wrong.
Someone goes, yeah, exactly.
They're wrong.
But someone comes up to you with absolute certainty, and they say, "My Quran or whatever, this told me this, and then this is wrong." And
you can't both be right.
Yeah, you can't both be right.
No. So one of us is wrong.
But that's the point.
So who's wrong?
So how do you know you have absolute certainty?
Right, and then
how
that's
do
what
they know they have absolute certainty?
That's what I'm saying. That you use your rational
How do you know?
faculties.
You can't
and you
know.
reason. You can reason.
How?
There are very reasonable arguments for why Islam is not right and Christianity is.
And how do you
or
know?
Vice versa.
And how do you know that rationality that is guiding that process is true?
And that's a very good question. But how do you know?
You don't. That's the point.
So I'm saying, so then you cannot make a single moral claim.
With certainty.
But you cannot even make that claim with certainty.
Yes, I can't.
So the claim that you're making uncertainly. That's a contradiction. You're expecting me to accept that you're saying that nothing is certain.
It would only
That
be...
is a claim that I would have to assent to with certainty.
No.
I'm not accepting that.
It's
a contradiction.
It would only be a contradiction if I said that claim with certainty, which I don't.
You're saying I can't know anything with certainty. That's a certain claim.
No, I'm not. I'm subjectively claiming that. I'm saying
That doesn't even make any sense.
it does. Wait, is it not possible for me to say I believe it? Is it not possible for me to say that I believe this is the case, but I could be wrong?
No, that's not what you're saying.
It is what I'm saying.
You're saying there's no way to know anything.
Yeah, but I could be wrong about that.
That's a claim to certainty.
I'm not claiming with
certainty.
certainty. But I just
that
said
we cannot know anything with certainty.
No, but
that's a contradiction.
No, but I just said I don't have certainty about that claim. So you're putting like this
so
claim into my
again,
mouth.
you're in a circle because you're saying I'm certain that we cannot know anything.
No. It would only be a circle and a contradiction if I said that I'm certain that we can't know anything. But I'm not saying that.
That's what you are.
I'm not. I'm not
what
certain
are you
about
saying
anything.
Then? You're certain that we can't know anything.
I'm making that claim with uncertainty. I'm making every claim with uncertainty. I'm not
you're
putting
saying
I'm not putting the word certainty anywhere.
I am uncertain that I can make a certain claim. No,
I'm not making a certain claim. When I'm saying that it's wrong, it's not a claim of certainty.
So what are you claiming then?
You can make a claim to truth with the underlying disclaimer that it's not something that you can know objectively. It's the same way that I'm making a claim. So in the same way that I'm talking, that I believe we're talking to each other. Like I'm saying that that's probably true, but I would say, look, we're talking to each other. I just believe that.
But at the end of the day, there's absolutely no way for me to prove that. So I always have that uncertainty as part of the claim. That's by definition, it's impossible for me.
Back to the example. I really maybe just apply it really clearly.
Yeah.
Oh. Don't use the word subjective or objective. Really clearly.
Yeah.
I stab an innocent child.
Okay. Sorry, it's not funny. It's not funny.
No, I know. I stab an innocent child, and you would say, I think that's wrong, but I can't be sure.
Yeah. But I'm not just I think. I'm very sure.
I'm pretty sure that's wrong, but
based on my intuition that I believe that guys.
But I can't really say for sure with 100% certainty. I can't say that innocent child being stabbed and killed is wrong. I really honestly couldn't say that with 100% certainty. Is that what you're saying?
The coolest thing is that I say that about everything. So yes, it is what I'm saying.
I don't think that's cool. I think that's insane. I think that for you to make that very claim is a contradiction, and maybe you can't see that, but then every single time that you tell me, if I slapped you in the face right now and you say, Teresa, why would you do that? That's wrong, and I would say, you're not even sure that that's wrong.
Yeah.
So you can't reprimand me for that.
Yeah, but it's
okay. And then I go out and I kill your entire family.
No, but it's the same case. It's the same. Ooh, this is okay.
But it's family.
Yeah. But it's the same case for me. Like if you went up to me and said, "Look, we're having a great chat right now." Like, excuse me. Yeah. You have no idea that we're having a chat.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing.
Like, no. Morally, let's stick to the morality.
But this is the point. In the same way that I'm like, yeah, I know that technically, I don't know for sure that we're having this chat. In the same way, when it comes to morality, it's like, oh, but you actually don't know. It's like it's cringe. Obviously, sorry, it's not cringe. But I believe, for all intents and purposes, that this is the case. But there is a little case that just might not be technically, absolutely unverifiable.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's
absolutely
important.
true.
And that means nothing is certain.
Yes, our conversation isn't certain.
Yeah,
but
nothing is certain.
But I'm
it's not even certain that killing an innocent person is wrong.
But
and that to me is the most. I don't know.
The problem.
That's the issue, because if you and I can't agree that killing an innocent person is wrong, you have zero claim to any moral. You cannot make a single moral claim.
Certain moral
you cannot
claim.
exactly. You
Zero
can't.
certain moral claim.
But a moral claim is either certain or not, and I can't. I don't believe that morality is like black is like grey.
Well, do you believe that other things can be certain or not? Do you believe that we're certain that we're having this conversation?
So I'm saying moral claims, and I think it's really important to stick to moral claims, because this.
Okay. I want to be specific. So you think that we don't know whether we're having this conversation with certainty, but moral claims are made with certainty.
No, I'm saying that's a different argument altogether. I'm talking specifically stick to moral. I'm saying the fact that you cannot say,
but they're on principle the same.
Certainty. No, they're not.
They are.
I think they're different.
But this is my worldview.
But I think they're different because we have to make this moral argument on the presupposition that we are here.
So I want to be clear. I want to be clear.
Yeah.
I want to be clear. So you are saying that moral claims have to be made with certainty in order to have any truth value to them, right?
No, I'm saying like you can't say it's wrong to kill an innocent child.
And I can't say that if I'm not saying it with certainty.
So that's what I'm saying. So if anybody came up to you and said, is it wrong to murder an innocent person? You would say, I'm pretty sure.
I would say yes.
But I don't know with 100%.
I would say yes.
But then you're claiming to know.
No, but that's the thing though.
You got to give the caveat every single time you make a moral claim.
But that's the point. The point is that when I'm talking to people every day, the same applies to whether or not we're having this conversation. And I know you don't like making but it's the exact same. So if someone went up to me and was saying like, oh, are we having this conversation? Every time I would say yes. I would never go to this stupid like meta appeal to like whether or not.
But it matters.
No, because you're
brushing it off like it doesn't matter. It does matter.
We brush off technicalities all the time to have conversations all the time.
That's what I'm saying.
So are you saying that when we're having a conversation that we have to acknowledge every fundamental?
I'm saying if you don't believe that we're really having this conversation, you should probably make that clear. I can say
I believe we are.
That we are.
How do you? That's my point. You can't.
Okay. Well, if you want to go down that,
but prove it.
That's what I'm saying. That the very fact that I can make a claim of certainty is that, and that's my point. Is that you cannot do that about a single thing. So you can't make any moral claims. You can't come up to me and say, yeah, it's wrong to murder an innocent person.
But that's the problem. You're jumping from you can't do it with certainty to saying you can't make a moral claim. The assumption there. The assumption that you have is that you have to have certainty to have a moral claim.
Your underlying argument is that nothing can be known with certainty.
Yeah.
That is...
Except for the fact that we exist. Descartes.
Right, so now you're saying there are exceptions to that rule.
Well, the fact that we exist is like, I know, I think, therefore I am.
How do you know you exist? That's what I'm saying. This is my point, is that what you're attempting to do is make an objective claim, but masking it as a subjective claim. And I'm saying, you cannot sit here and say to me that we cannot know anything objectively. And then say, but that's just my subjective belief. Like, you are making a claim that nothing can be known with certainty, nothing can be proven. That, in and of itself, is an objective claim.
No, it's not.
You are making an objective claim because you're saying this is the way it is. The way it is simply that nothing can be proven.
I'm gonna say every time now, this is the way I believe it is. How's that?
But that's what I'm saying. We can't both be right about this. Like it either is the way that you believe or it's not.
Yeah, exactly. But that's my point. We can't be right because there's no way of being able to prove things that are the most fundamental.
But how can you prove that we can't prove anything?
That's the point. You can't. That's my point.
So you're in a cyclical argument. You're in a cyclical argument.
No, it's not a cyclical argument.
I'm saying that and if we're talking about, and again, I think morality is a really good example. But I'm saying if we're looking at moral issues, I'm saying I at least can say I have a source and an origin of my moral beliefs. So I can say with certainty, murdering an innocent person is wrong. I can say with certainty, I'm trying to think of other uncontroversial examples. I'm saying stealing from you is like whatever. I'm saying at least I can make that claim. You can't.
Well, you can make that claim, and you can, in my opinion, pretend that it's an objective claim. But I would say that it's coming from a subjective understanding about the world, about whether or not God exists. It's based on your own, and you can't objectively know with certainty that God exists.
I feel like we're running in circles here.
Yeah, we are.
But I think the more important question that I have for you is, where does your source of objectivity come?
Where does your source? So where does my source of objectivity come?
Yeah, or objective truth, like that overarching principle. Like,
what
is that?
Where does truth come from?
Also, for you to say that there is an overarching principle, are you saying that with certainty?
No.
Okay.
I don't know anything.
Okay.
I don't know anything for certain. That's the point. So when I'm saying that,
that's okay.
Yeah. So when I'm saying, so when we're talking about, when I'm talking about like, I believe in these truths. I would argue that you also believe in things that are independent of God that are true. And so
no, they're not independent of God.
Is logic independent of God?
No. Logic.
Can God break logic?
What do you mean?
Can God break logic?
I'm saying logic is like this human word that we've ascribed to this syllogism, this way of thinking.
Is it true?
But I'm saying we were given the rational capacity to understand logic or to use logic.
And is logic
that
true,
is a
though?
We rational capacity that was given to us by God. We weren't just born with a rational capacity and an ability to use logic.
Is it true, though, that logic...
What do you mean?
Is logic true?
No, as in we can use logic to discover truth.
Yeah, but is it true?
Is logic true?
The logical thing that's guiding our discovery of truth, is that true?
Well, I get it. Well, it depends. Well, it depends. That depends.
It must be.
But what's your argument? But then you're making a certain claim.
Well, I'm saying it must be in order for your argument to have... And I'm saying that subjectively. Everything that I say is subjective, by the way. Like, when I'm saying that...
No, that's not true, because you're saying my feelings say that this is what it is.
Yeah, but because I can't verify that thing with absolute certainty, that therefore must be... Let's go. We can
That's what I'm saying. So how can you say that there's this overarching principle of truth if you can't even say that with certainty?
The thing is, we're going to fight about it, because, like, that's the thing. The person who is right... Like, we have no, like, is there like there's, I mean, you might believe God is the one who articulates what is true and what is not, and that's why but for me, like, if I believe one certain thing and you believe another thing with certainty, like, there is no way of, like, being able to come to an agreement about whether or not that is true if we both have different axiomatic, like, foundations about our beliefs. And that my point is when it comes to understanding, like, something to do with, God is the author of logic. I don't believe that that's the case, because you also believe that God can't do certain things.
No, I don't.
So you believe that God can make a...
But I'm saying you're creating this idea that, like, God fits into this dichotomy, and I'm saying
no dichotomy.
That doesn't apply to God.
He has... I mean, even this is in the Catechism as well. God can't do things. I'm pretty sure it's in the Catechism. But is church teaching that God can't commit logical contradictions. God can't make two contradictory things exist simultaneously.
I would like to see that.
But do you believe that he could?
I'm not saying I don't believe or do believe. I'm just saying that, like, if you're saying that that's the church doctrine, I would like to...
I'll pull it up later if you want to pull it up.
Yeah.
But the point is that at least from the majority of Catholics that I've talked to, even, like, it's God can't do things which are logically contradictory. We can look it up after, but let's just say the conversation that
you just haven't answered my question.
What is your question again?
Where does this source come from?
This is my point.
I would say that it comes from the same place that you believe. Well, I would argue that you
No,
believe
to
logic
answer my
comes
question,
from.
where does your source of
it
truth
just
come from?
exists.
But that's what I'm saying. That's an objective claim. You're saying it just exists, and I'm saying you can't say that.
I believe it exists.
You believe it exists,
Yeah.
and I'm saying that's not true. It doesn't exist.
Okay.
It doesn't just exist.
Yeah.
There is a source,
and that's why I'm going to.
So we disagree.
That's why I'm going to prove to you. I'm going to try and prove to you that it is.
But I'm saying you haven't,
convince
because
you.
all you've tried to do is mask objective claims as subjective claims, and I'm saying that's not.
Oh, sorry. 1 second.
Who is it?
I have no idea. I'll edit this part out of the.
Yeah, I'm saying like the whole time you've masked objective claims,
Yeah.
saying I can't know anything, and you'll be like, but that's subjective, and I'm saying like you're like the very fact that you're making such a claim is a claim to something objective. So I'm saying it's
because I don't
think you see the contradiction that you're.
I understand.
thinking
I
of.
understand where you think the contradiction is, but I
No,
also,
it is a contradiction. It's not like I think it is. There's this language again. It's like it is a contradiction.
But I don't want to rapidly alternate between two different topics, because the first topic was where is my source of truth, and the second
and you
topic
haven't
was,
been able to answer that, and you keep going.
No,
but it's about my belief of logic.
No, but
just answer me clearly.
But I'm making.
Does it, and then you said it exists.
But when I'm answering it, you're making it a claim to whether or not it can be objectively or subjectively true, which is not part of the claim.
But it has to be.
No, but that's the thing. That's the thing. Let's like put aside the subjective objectivity thing for now, because the question was, where is my source of truth? Whether or not I can cement that as an objective or a subjective thing, that is something that is irrelevant to what I'm about to claim right now about whether my source of truth is, right? So I don't want to pitter-patter between two different, because they're different topics.
But how do you reconcile that I believe one thing and you believe another? How do you reconcile that?
That's back to the subjectivity. Do you want to go to? We can go to that one, but you asked me about my source of truth.
Yeah, and you said it exists. I believe it exists.
Yeah.
That's what you said to me.
Yeah. So
that's an objective claim.
Yeah, but I also believe that you believe that it just believes that it just exists.
No,
because
I don't believe.
But you have to follow. You have to follow for a second, because I really want you to follow this train of thought.
I'm going to try.
Okay. So God. Okay, let's say for argument's sake, I don't know if you're willing to do this, but please grant me this if you can, that God can't break the law of contradiction. He can't do that because it's a logical law. He can't make a square triangle.
But I don't believe that I don't know, and I don't know. Again, I haven't really thought this through, but I'm saying like if God is the truth, like logic comes from him. Like it's not like he's not subject to logic. Like I don't see it like that. That's what I'm saying.
He can't do things that are illogical. Like he can't he can't make two things that don't.
How do you know that with certainty?
You're going back to the certainty thing.
I'm using your own logic.
No,
but how do I know that anything that you're saying is true?
I'm not talking about certainty now. I'm just talking about my
belief. I believe that what you're saying isn't true.
Okay, that's fine. But this is still a certainty argument. But I'm talking about the source of truth, right? So we'll stick with that. So let's say that it is the church teaching, and I believe it is, that God can't contradict stuff. But yeah. Okay, so
There's so much more I want to talk about.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Interesting.
But I was going to say, because let's say it is true that the Catholic Church teaches that God can't break the law of contradiction. Let's just assume that it's true, because I believe that it is the case, and you can look it up afterwards. But
I'm just going to assume. I'm not saying that I assent to that proposition,
Yeah,
because I really don't even. That doesn't even really make a whole lot of sense. But
Okay.
let's assume that that's correct.
For the purposes of the argument, let's assume that God cannot do contradictory things, right? Okay, given that that's the case, that means that he is logic exists as an objective construct that God isn't able to alter, and because he isn't able to alter it, therefore logic is independent of him, and it exists as its own source and independent truth of the universe that's always eternal.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, how did you make that leap?
Because if he were able to change it, then it would be subject to him. And if he isn't able to change it, then it would be going back to the objective thing. That's the point.
That's my point. Like, yeah. You're making an objective claim.
No.
And then you're expecting me to just and then you're brushing it off as but I can't be sure.
I think
That's what I'm saying. Like the very fact that you're making these claims, but then you say your underlying belief system is that you can't be sure about any of this. Is like, well, how can you even be sure about what you're saying right now?
I'm not. That's
exactly.
But that's
my point.
But that's the reason why we're arguing about it, and we're trying to get to some sort of collective agreement.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to point out to you that there is an inherent contradiction in what you're saying. That you're saying something that you can't be sure. You're saying I can't prove You're saying with certainty that I can't prove.
I'm not saying with
anything.
certainty. I'm not saying with certainty.
Then how do you know? Then how can you make that claim? You're saying I can't
I
prove
don't have
anything, and I'm saying
Yeah, I can't. But that's the thing. Not with certainty.
Are you open to the fact that that's not true? That you actually can prove something with certainty?
Yeah.
Are you open to that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's exactly what I'm saying. So that should be the goal of your inquiry.
But that's the thing.
Not that your underlying like system through life is like I can't prove anything, so I can't. Like,
but the point is that I would never be able to know that you can prove something with certainty.
And there we go, back again.
You never
you
will
actually
be able to,
don't believe that you can prove anything.
I don't subjectively believe that you can prove anything.
No, you throw the word subjectively like it matters, and it doesn't.
It does. It is so important.
Your fundamental claim is that you cannot prove anything with certainty.
Yes, and I'm not certain about that claim. I'm not certain about that claim. I could be wrong about that.
That is a contradiction.
Why?
And you can't see that. And it's like in the very sentence it's a contradiction. I can't prove anything with certainty, but I can't even say that with certainty.
Yeah.
So it's like you're literally trying to make a certain argument and then immediately afterwards saying, but I can't be certain about that certain argument. And then you're just living in this thing of contradiction. It's either
It's not contradiction.
It's either you can't prove anything with certainty or you can.
It would only,
it's one or the
no,
other.
but
And it's not I can't be sure. It either is or it isn't.
It would only be a contradiction if I said it with certainty. So I think you're putting this word certainty, and you're ascribing the word certainty to my position. It would be a contradiction, and I agree with you, if I said I can certainly know that things aren't certain.
So but then
that would be a contradiction.
No, because then immediately after I said, are you open to the possibility that you can prove something with certainty?
I'm open to the possibility.
And then you're saying, no, it's actually not possible.
It's possible that
you said it's impossible.
No, it's possible that certainty exists, but I would be uncertain as to that claim.
But so you believe that certainty, but then again,
I don't believe certainty exists
because you just admitted that then you could prove something with certainty.
I'm saying it's possible, but I'm uncertain about that.
So it is possible.
Yeah.
That is a claim to certainty. It
No,
is
it's not.
possible.
No, it's
yes,
not.
it is. It
Is
possible.
possible is certainty?
It is possible.
That's not certainty.
No, you're saying it is. Okay, you know
possible
what I'm saying.
means that could be otherwise,
okay,
which
so
means
saying,
uncertain.
Okay, so you're saying I could prove with certainty a particular
It might
claim.
be possible that it's the
No. You either can or you can't. This might
but
be
I
possible.
don't. The point is, I don't know whether you can or you can't.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying. So you're saying exactly, and here's what I'm saying. That's the contradiction. You're saying I can't prove anything with certainty, but I'm open to the possibility that I could prove something with certainty, but I can't.
But because I can't, it's always going to be.
Therefore, nothing can be known. Like
Yeah, exactly. That's not. Wait, why is that a contradiction? That's perfect.
That's a contradiction.
Why? Sorry, that went really high pitch. But why?
Like you're literally saying, I can't prove anything with certainty.
Yeah.
But I'm open to the possibility that I can prove something with certainty.
Yes.
But then you're saying, but I can't even be certain.
Of course,
that
I can't be
prove
certain
any of
about that. No, of course not.
Okay, so then
because
you're not
certainty,
open to the possibility.
certainty would.
But then you're not really open to the possibility.
Of course you are.
But how?
Because you.
If you can't be certain that it's even possible, then
Are
why
you
would
saying
you...
to be open to the possibility of being certain, you have to be certain about your openness to that possibility of being
Yes.
certain? Why?
Because I'm saying that's a contradiction.
No, it's not a contradiction.
If you're not actually certain that something could be proven,
Yeah.
then you cannot be certain that something cannot be proven. Like you're. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I understand,
yeah,
but I'm not.
That's a contradiction.
But the point is that I'm not making any of those claims with certainty. That's the point. I'm not.
But you're not making any claims then.
No, that's the thing. This is the theme. I believe is that you believe that certainty is a necessary requirement to a claim of truth.
Yes.
Just because truth.
That's a pretty simple idea. That like if you're claiming something to be true, it either is or it isn't.
Yeah, no. The difference is if it's true. That means it's independent of our
of our belief. Yeah.
True. Yeah, exactly. And so, if it were the case that it was true, whether or not I believed it would be irrelevant. It's either true or not. But the point is, because we live in a world of observers, and the only way we come to know anything is through observers.
It's through your feelings.
It's through observers.
And I'm saying that's wrong.
Through observers.
No, it's through your rational faculties. You can come to know things.
Which it comes through an observer. And rational faculties could be wrong because people are wrong about things.
Yeah.
And how do you know you're not wrong? You'd have to appeal to an objective standard.
Exactly.
And how would you know that objective standard without using your rational faculties?
Exactly.
But how would you know the objective standard without using your rational faculties?
That's precisely what I'm saying. So it's like you cannot make any truth claim
with certainty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can make.
But that claim that you cannot make as any truth statement with certainty is a claim to truth.
No, it's not.
You're basically.
Oh yes, yes. But it's an uncertain claim to truth. No, but it's an uncertain claim to truth.
That doesn't.
No, there's a difference.
It's not an uncertain claim. It's a certain claim that nothing can be certain.
Are you saying it's impossible?
It's a contradiction.
So are you saying it's impossible for me to believe subjectively that a truth claim that truth exists?
No. Forget subjectively.
Sorry, is it possible for me to believe
that truth exists objectively.
Is it possible for you to believe that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it, in order to make that statement, would my belief that that thing is true have to be an objective, certain claim?
Hang on, say that again. Say that again.
I'm saying that I believe objective truth exists right now for this example, right?
But you're saying that it comes from this invisible, this amorphous.
No, wait. This is just in this example.
No, but that's important because you're basically like you're saying that objective truth exists, but you're saying there's absolutely no way to know that it exists. So then, what's the point in an objective truth if there's no way for you to know it?
Because we can deal in the world, we can deal with things in the world without.
So then, objective truth doesn't matter.
Sorry.
Then objective truth doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The fact that we all can agree as a society collectively that is.
But I don't agree.
That is. Wait.
Stabbing an innocent child. I don't agree.
Yes, but
this is my question. How do you?
The fact that 99.9% of us share the same intuition.
No, that's not true. And how?
Yes,
and
it
how
is.
do you reconcile?
Yes, it is.
No, you don't. No, we don't. How do you reconcile
yes,
moral? How do you reconcile competing moral claims?
That's my point. Neither can you.
Yes, I can. One of us is right and one of us is wrong.
Yeah.
Murdering an innocent child, sacrifice. Okay, look at the ancient civilizations that would murder innocent children, and that was a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Just because majority of them believed that it was objectively right, doesn't make it objectively right.
Yes.
That's my point.
Yes.
Is that the majority doesn't dictate something that's true.
Yes.
And you're saying, well, because we can all collectively intuit that it's true, it must be true. That's not the case. Because that's not how truth works.
No, but I'm not saying that we can. The fact that we can all collectively intuit something that makes it objectively true.
No, it doesn't.
I'm not saying that we can do that. That's my point. But I'm saying that we're willing to say with as much certainty as we are to make any claim about the universe that it must be true for in all intents and purposes.
Right, and I'm saying you cannot make a moral claim if you're unsure that it's true. I think that's absurd because you can't say I'm unsure if murdering an innocent child is wrong.
I think
that's not a moral claim.
I don't think
that's like I'm questioning. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think we have the shared definition of what certainty is because if you were to make a certain claim,
well, you get up the definition of certainty.
Yeah, of course.
I'm saying it's logically. Google. I'm saying it's a bit absurd to based on all of this that you're saying like. And that's what I'm trying to understand how you reconcile competing moral claims in a world where it's not possible to know objective truth and it doesn't matter. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, and I think that's the underlying problem is one that you believe that it doesn't matter, and two that you don't believe that it's even possible.
It doesn't matter for societal purposes.
Yes, and then therefore you cannot make a single moral claim to anything. No, but you can't because you can't have a question mark over whether murdering an innocent child is wrong. Yes, it either is or it isn't.
Because you don't have. But then we have question marks about.
Then you can't make a claim. Yes, you can. Then you can't say that. No, you can't.
Am I allowed to make a claim that?
No, you're not. If you say I don't know, that's not a claim to something. You're saying I don't know.
Am I allowed to make a claim that 1 + 1 = 2?
No, but I'm saying if you're saying I don't know, then you're not making a claim.
Really?
A claim requires that you know that thing, that you believe that thing.
Yeah. But did you still want to look at this definition?
What does it say? I'm actually curious.
Yeah, the quality of being reliably true, or fact that a definitely true event that is definitely going to take place.
There we go. Yeah. That's perfect. And that we've both been using it in that. Well, I've at least been using it in that.
Yeah,
sense.
I've been using it in that way as well. I'm saying that you can't know anything with definite truth.
So you cannot make a single moral claim because a moral claim requires certainty.
No, it doesn't.
That's what I'm saying. But you can't say murdering an innocent child might be wrong. That's not a claim.
I'm not saying might be wrong. I'm saying that I believe it's wrong, and I'm saying that most of everyone.
That's might, because if you're not certain, then it's not definitely true. So it's a might.
Yeah, but then
might is.
But then I believe everything is uncertain.
So everything is a might.
Yeah, but
so you can't make any.
The might is so insignificant.
No, it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's so significant.
It is because it means
that you and I can sit here and look each other in the eye, and you can say it's not wrong, and I can say it is, and you say it doesn't matter. And I'm saying it does matter because the might is so important.
Because we're willing to push aside the might for every other conversation that we have.
No, you're saying you're willing to push aside the might because of majority rules.
No, we are, because everyone in the world, I think most people would agree that it's possible. That
I don't even agree with that language.
Well, I think most people agree in the world that that we live in a world that actually exists. But there's absolutely no way to go about proving that because we don't have a universal world existing detector.
No, we've already been through all that. I'm saying the moral claim is the most important thing.
But it's important because it's the same sort of. I'm claiming them with the same degree of certainty. In the same way that I'm able to say, look, it's like I have no universal truth detector that tells me that I'm not living in a vat. But just for the sake of it, like I know we probably aren't living in a vat.
Probably.
Yeah.
But you can't know, so you can't make that claim.
But then, just in the same way that you're willing to say that,
I'm saying I can make a claim.
Yeah,
I can make a claim that killing an innocent child is wrong.
okay, but this is what I'm saying. But in the same way that we're able to just shove aside the possibility that we don't exist.
But it's not shoving aside the possibility.
No, because we are. But
we do exist or we don't. Like it can't.
No.
It's not like a question mark. We either do or we don't.
Yeah, but
and we either know that we do or we don't know that we don't.
Even that relies on our intuition of logical principles. That the contradiction
and again,
can't,
that's saying the underlying thing of like the intuition of logical principles. I don't think that's a.
Yeah, look, this is an interesting topic. But we could go on because
I think we could.
We're going to go in a circle about it because it's coming back to the same underlying claim. You're on the one hand, I want to try and steal menu is the idea that to make a claim, you would have to have certainty in your conviction about that claim.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
A moral claim, sorry.
No, I'm saying no. I'm saying like it's not possible if you don't believe that anything can be proven. It's not possible to make any claim with certainty, and that that very claim is a certain claim. To say that we cannot prove anything with certainty is a claim to certainty. I am certain that nothing can be proved.
I want to because thematically, every time I said that I can't make a moral claim with certainty.
Yeah.
You said therefore you can't make a moral claim. This is like word for word.
Yeah.
You said therefore you can't make a moral claim.
You can't make a moral claim.
And, you said as a supposition you must have certainty in order to have a moral claim.
No, because my point is that the again my point is for you to say nothing can be proven with certainty is a claim to something. Like you're claiming that that's the case. Nothing can be proven. That's a certain claim.
It's not a certain
I am certain that nothing can be proven.
So we go back to this is my steelman.
Then you're the one existing in the contradiction.
But this is my steelman of your position: is that certainty is required to make any claim about at least about morality.
No, I'm saying
that's what you just
no,
said.
no. I'm saying my argument is it's a contradiction to say that we cannot prove anything with certainty, but that I'm uncertain of that claim. Because you're making a certain claim about uncertainty, but then saying you're uncertain about it.
I'm not making a certain claim.
So it's this circle of contradiction.
But the difference is I'm not making a certain claim about my uncertainty. I'm making an uncertain claim about my uncertainty because I believe every
that's a contradiction.
No.
Yes, it is.
The contradiction
I'm uncertain that I'm uncertain.
No, the contradiction is if I say I'm certain that I'm uncertain. That's a contradiction because you can't simultaneously be certain and uncertain at the same time.
But then I asked you, are you open to the possibility that could be proven?
But you can't.
And you said no, nothing can be proven.
But what?
You said I can't prove anything with certainty.
Yeah, but I'm also said that I'm open. I'm open to the possibility that things can be proven with certainty.
Right.
But my understanding of whether that could be true or not is an uncertain understanding because everything that I believe is uncertain. That's what I'm saying. A contradiction only happens when there's one thing, a positive and a negative, that don't make sense when you push them.
It doesn't make sense to say.
In this case, certainty and uncertainty can't coexist. So
right.
And so the difference is that I'm not putting certainty anywhere. You're putting certainty.
No,
somewhere.
you said that you said that there's an overarching principle for your morality.
I'm uncertain as to whether that exists.
Right. So then you can't make a single.
It's
claim.
An uncertain claim to certainty.
Right. So then you can't sit here and tell me that you believe stabbing an innocent child is wrong because you say there's a possibility or like I'm unsure, I don't know, and I'm saying that's not a claim to anything. You're just saying I'm unsure if that's wrong.
So then we come back to it. So
yeah.
The
You're not sure.
Being unsure.
Yes.
Disqualifies you from being able to make a claim. That is what you said. It is what you said by definition.
Well, because if you're saying I don't know if that's wrong, that's not really a claim. That's just you're just saying I don't know.
So you have to have certainty, is what I'm saying. This is what you were saying. So that's.
Well, I think it's
that's
important.
Why originally I tried to steal man because you said that certainty, from what you're saying, and it's by definition, certainty is a necessary qualifier to make a claim about morality. You have to have certainty, otherwise it's a meaningless claim.
Well,
that's what you just said.
And that's what I'm saying. That source is
okay.
and that's what I'm saying. That's the most significant thing is you're saying like if this source is this overarching moral principle. But I'm not even sure about that overarching moral principle. You can't make any claims. You just can't.
With certainty. You can't make any claims.
But you can't even be sure about that. So how do you make any? Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So everything, your entire like logic is literally crumbles under itself because it cannot stand on. It has nothing to stand on. But it's not standing on anything certain.
It's not standing on objectivity.
Exactly. It's not exactly, and that's the point. Is that. That's exactly my point.
But the definition of objectivity is able to is something that is true regardless of whether our opinion.
And you're saying that doesn't matter.
But the thing is, we can only come to know anything through our own subjective experience of the world, and so because of that, you can't make any claims with objectivity.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I don't agree with that.
You are a subject.
But you're saying that. Perfect. That's a perfect example. That's the perfect example of the contradiction because you're literally saying the only way to know the truth is through my subjective
I'm
experience.
still saying I subjectively
That
believe that. Yeah.
is an objective claim.
No, it's not.
You're saying...
No, it's not.
No, that is, because you're saying, like, you can't know anything with subjective...
Yeah,
and
no,
I'm saying I can.
No, I'm claiming to know that, but I could be wrong about that.
Oh my...
I could be wrong about that.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying.
That's
So
why
then
we're
we
arguing.
can't... Then I can... Then
That's why we're
this is my
arguing.
point. That's what I'm saying, where everything like, turns in on itself, because it's impossible to have a conversation with a person who literally says that I'm not even sure about what I'm saying at any point ever.
Yes,
Then
you
it's
can.
like... How?
Because we're willing to do that with every other thing that we're uncertain of, like the unprovability of our logical intuitions, the unprovability of the fact that we explain.
But that's what I'm saying. This logical intuition thing, I didn't fully grasp.
Yeah, that's fine. But my point is that we're able to shove aside the most. There's certain things that we just accept to be true axiomatically.
I don't just shove these things.
Yes,
I
we
don't
have
shove
axioms.
things aside.
Well, you have to have axioms to believe anything. You have to.
But I'm saying no axiom. I'm saying I don't shove things aside when I'm making claims. If I'm saying an innocent child, it's always wrong to kill an innocent child, then I'm making a claim, and I'm not uncertain about that. I'm certain that that's wrong. You're saying you're uncertain.
Yes.
How do you reconcile that I'm certain and you're not? How do you reconcile that?
I reconcile it by saying that I don't believe you can be certain. That we're both uncertain.
So you don't think that I can be certain about anything?
No.
And you're sure about that?
Well, except for the fact, no, I'm not sure about that.
Exactly. So then that's a contradiction.
That's not a contradiction.
You're literally... Oh my God. You're literally saying... Oh my God. You're literally saying
I know
I can't be sure about not being sure.
Yeah.
That's a contradiction.
I'm not sure about not being sure either. Like I'm not sure that I'm not okay. I'm uncertain about every claim that I make, even the fact that I'm doing this right now. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
So then, how can you say that you can't prove anything? That's you're saying it's not possible to prove something, but I could be wrong about that. But and I say it's wrong to kill an innocent child, and I'm using this example because we have to.
Be wrong about that, but I'm willing. But like, it's so I'm so convinced by my intuition.
And how do you reconcile the fact that I say that is wrong and I'm certain of it? How do you reconcile that?
I would say that you can't do that by definition because you're relying on things
that
are axiomatically
so I can't?
unprovable.
Are you certain that I can't?
No, I'm not certain about that.
Then how can you challenge? Then how do you then you can't reconcile that?
I tell you why I'm uncertain
there's no way for you to reconcile
I tell you why I'm uncertain about it because I'm relying on my own logical intuitions and principles that guide every aspect
but I disagree with you.
No, I know.
You cannot. It's impossible for you to reconcile competing moral claims on that basis.
But because I have an understanding that my moral intuitions could all be wrong. I have no way of proving them.
And I'm not. I'm saying like murdering an innocent child is always wrong.
I'm talking about logical intuitions here because we're talking about the law of contradiction here. So I'm saying that because I'm uncertain about whether my logical intuitions are true or not, because it's impossible for me to know whether or not they're true, but I'm just so convinced that they are. There's no reason to question them, right? I believe that, and so because of that, I'm able to make claims about the universe. But I always have that technical
you can't be sure.
disclaimer that I was unsure because my logical intuitions could be wrong.
So you can't be sure that killing an innocent child is wrong.
Given the assumption that those things are true, and we're willing to have these conversations about these things being objectively true, and that's the same thing I think.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
Okay, this is what I'm saying. Like I feel like this conversation can go on for.
It could. How long are we going for?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's been a while.
Okay.
So I'm curious as to whether or not you want to kind of pivot to a different topic.
I'm happy to pivot if you want to.
How much time you got? Because
what time is it?
It's 6 o'clock.
I probably have like 20 minutes.
Okay, it's up to you.
So I'm gonna make
do as much
dinner.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure,
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Wait, hang on. Actually, can I quickly text my dad?
Yeah, of course. Take your time.
Wait, give me 1 second. Do you see the contradiction that I'm pointing out?
That's right. That's fine.
Also, Elizabeth and I also have differences in thing, and you can see the contradiction.
Me personally, I just don't know how it's sustainable to live a life based on what ifs and maybes and like never 100% being sure of something.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
I would argue that you're doing it all the time because you don't have provability of your fundamental logical.
So you're saying you're saying you can't prove anything.
Yeah, technically.
And I'm saying I can.
Speaking,
how do you reconcile that?
Because I'm saying that you can't.
And I'm saying I can.
Yeah, exactly. You can't reconcile that.
But you don't even know. But you're not even certain of that.
Exactly.
So you can't challenge me.
No, I can.
How do you reconcile that?
Because I subjectively believe it.
You cannot reconcile. It is impossible on that basis. It is impossible for you. Sorry, I'm supposed to.
No, but you're right.
Wait. It is literally impossible for you to reconcile competing. Please stay with me.
Yeah.
Competing moral claims. It is impossible for you to reconcile that. Because if I say one thing and you say another, you're saying there is not a single way to know with any certainty that one of us is wrong and one of us is right.
Absolutely.
You cannot reconcile those competing moral claims.
Absolutely.
So then that's exactly what I'm saying.
And neither can you.
Killing no, that's not true. I can.
True.
And I can say with certainty that killing an innocent child is wrong, and I can say that with certainty, and I can say that I look you in the eyes and I say, you're wrong. You might be unsure if it's wrong. I'm convinced that it's wrong.
I'm arguing that the philosophical basis of your claim to certainty is not there. But text your dad.
Oh, that's a different argument altogether.
No, it's the same argument I've been making.
Oh, wait, are you sure of that, though?
That's the same. No, I'm not. I'm not uncertain about anything. That's the point.
But you're certain
you
that
can't
you're
be because I do, but I'm certain in as far as I trust my intuitions. That's what I'm saying.
No, forget that. That's
No, it's not irrelevant at all because because it is the basis of my point.
You're literally saying the only thing.
No, it's the basis of my point.
It's your feelings and your experience, your subjective experience.
No,
your intuition.
No, I'm saying that to understand anything relies on the idea that your intuitions are true. That's the
it's not. That's
yes,
not
it is.
true.
Because if they weren't, because if your logical intuitions were wrong, then you couldn't make a claim about anything.
And you can't. You can't.
I can't make a claim with certainty.
You can't make any claim.
I can.
With certainty. You can't make a single claim with certainty.
I can't do it with certainty. Because every claim is going to rely on...
Okay, so how do you reconcile me making a certain moral claim?
No, but I'll tell you why I can't make a claim with certainty is because it would rely on the ability to prove your logical intuitions as certain, which you can't do because they are the basis of truth.
That doesn't even make any sense. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not following the leap that you're making.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not.
Text your dad. Text your dad.
This is really interesting, though.
Yeah.
I'm like really trying to engage with what you're saying. I'm just not. Wait, hang on. Let me tell him. He transferred it at 4 o'clock. No, I'll just deal with it when I get back.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll just deal with it when I get back. It's focaccia. I was making some focaccia bread as that. Okay, yeah. Focaccia bread. Nice. So we've got like 20 minutes, and then I will have to go.
All right. So do you want to shift or do you want to stay?
I'm happy to shift, but like just to be clear,
I feel
my final position is that what you're saying is a contradiction, and that perhaps you can't see that.
Okay, and my final
and
claim,
your final thing
my final claim is that you believe that it's a contradiction based on a subjective trusting your intuitions, which I believe that you don't have.
Yeah, and the fact that you're saying that you believe that, you can't even be sure that you believe that.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so then
with certainty,
you're not making any real
it's
argument
certain
then.
enough to be able to for me to be.
But not certain.
No, it's
impossible. So you're not even certain
certainty is impossible. I mean,
you're not even certain that I believe that.
We're just echoing Descartes, basically, is what my argument.
Okay. But you're not even certain that I believe that.
No.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying. That's a contradiction, and that's my.
Okay.
Yeah.
You lose contradiction. I don't. All right. Let's say
yeah.
Okay, but but like I was going to say.
But very interesting. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Go on.
No, but I was kind of like, if you did have any other like topics of interest that you kind of wanted to discuss, I'm also like keen on doing well. Because I mean, like, you know, I think when it comes, my like whole spiel is that, you know, I believe. Those sort of claims about them, just called meta-ethics, where morality come from. I believe that is less important in the world as it is today, as is normative ethics or applied ethics, which is how we go about applying ethics in the real world. So I wanted to ask if you believe that your beliefs about the objectivity and all that stuff, do they filter in your understanding of society more broadly? Do you think that? How do you I'm not sure if that makes sense. But like,
wait, as in, how do my beliefs like...
how do they apply to prescriptions to society? So you have a belief about certain ways that things are supposed to be oriented, even things like marriage, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You believe marriage is supposed to be oriented a certain way, man and woman, stuff like that. They believed on, they founded upon a belief in a God and about designer that's supposed to be a certain way. How would you go about prescribing that in the world today? So do you believe that because you believe that, and you believe this person who's designed marriage a certain way, is that something that therefore qualifies us to have to push that version or understanding of marriage into the population?
That's an interesting question. I guess...
that's marriage. It could be marriage, could be anything.
Yeah. I think that's a really good question. And I think the underlying question, and you can correct me if you disagree.
I disagree.
Are you sure that you do?
Yeah.
No, like, I think that's more a question on like the nature of freedom, right? And it, like, if, like what is my belief on like what the nature of freedom is, right? So if I believe that like imposing a particular thing onto a society, is like a good thing, my argument would be, actually, okay, hang on. Maybe let me reframe this. Go
ahead.
I think the underlying question here is what is freedom? Is freedom the ability to do whatever you want, or is it something else?
Well, I don't believe in free will, but it depends on freedom.
Okay.
But this is determinism. But what do I believe?
Okay.
Yeah. So what do I believe? So what do I believe is freedom? I would say that freedom, not free will, but the freedom is a capacity to
act however is in accordance with your, however you want to do. But like when it comes to society, there should be certain restrictions on freedom I think that restriction should be based on the harm principle. Basically, when you can wave your hand around. This is a Ben Shapiro's thing. When you can wave your hand around as much as you want, but when it hits someone else, that's when you've broken a rule, and that's where the law should come in. Is when your personal freedom infringes upon someone else's personal freedom. Okay,
so how do you define harm then?
It's a good question. A very good question. But this is going to go really sideways though. It really depends, but I would say technically it's something that is contrary to someone's well-being. What is well-being, therefore, is a difficult question, right? We have this basic idea. We all have this kind of idea of what human flourishing and well-being is. Maybe we may not have an agreement on that, but that's why we fight and argue about what sort of things are like in line with human well-being, and that's why we construct our laws to be able to, avert harm. But how would you define harm?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think. I guess it's difficult now knowing that you're not really sure about anything that you're saying.
All right.
But again,
assume I am. Assume I am.
Assume that you are.
Yeah.
Because you're 99% sure.
Yeah. But no.
My assumption is I don't agree with the definition of freedom. So I don't think that freedom is doing what you want unless it harms somebody else.
Okay.
Because
Oh no, sorry.
That's crack.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Oh, sorry. Not that unless it harms someone else.
That's my definition of where freedom should be limited.
Limited, right? Yep. Yeah. Sorry. So I don't think that. Well, I guess my question for a question is, and it's similar to what we were talking about before. How do you then reconcile competing claims for harm? Right. So, for example, I believe that that chopping off body parts is harm.
Okay. Yeah.
And I believe that feeding someone's delusion that they are something that they're not. I think we know what we're talking about.
Try to say it. Go on, do it. No, kidding.
Zoom in.
Yeah.
I think that that's harm, right? But then there's a competing claim that that's not harm because that would make the person feel better, or
yes,
et cetera, et cetera.
Who's the arbiter of what makes harm?
Exactly, yeah. and I think this really does. It will inevitably go back to like our fundamental starting point, which is like there's no way to know. Like one person says that's harmful, another person says that's not harmful. We're just going to fight it out till we die.
Okay.
And I don't believe that that's the case. And I also think that freedom is freedom is really where we have the ability to choose what is good.
Okay.
And maybe that's really, really simplistic.
Also,
but
what is bad?
I don't think freedom is. Sorry.
Also, what is bad? Can you choose? Is that part
no. Then you're not free. Then you're a slave to something.
Whoa,
inevitably.
Okay.
Yeah. So like for example, like I do, and here's a good thing of like sexual revolution.
Yeah.
Like I think one of the key one of the key ideas that was kind of pushed in the movement was that like liberation or freedom is being able to do whatever I want, and I think that's I don't think that that's true freedom because and again sexual liberation yeah sorry liberation sexual revolution they're all bloody shun words. Okay.
Yeah.
So the sexual revolution was pushing the idea that sexual liberation is real freedom, and I'm saying that if you are sexually liberated and you're doing whatever, you're sleeping with whoever you want, you're doing whatever, I don't believe that that's freedom because you're not choosing the good. You're
so
a
freedom
slave
is
to
choosing the good.
You're a slave. Yeah. You're being able to choose the good. You know what is good and you choose it. Being a slave to your passions, for example, like as a result of the sexual revolution, the sexual liberation. Again, I'm making really simplistic general conclusions about a very complicated movement. But I'm saying, like, if this is the claim that doing whatever you want sexually, as an example, doing whatever you want is freedom.
Yeah.
I'm saying that that's not the definition of freedom, and I think that makes you a slave in some capacity to your passions, to your feelings, to your emotions, to your physical urges. Like that's not a freedom, and I think freedom is being able to choose what is good, and then it comes to what is the good, and then and then we go off into what we were talking about before. Can you know what is good?
Yeah. So I have a question about that because I'm confused as why there's like some sort of like ethical pumping into the word freedom because you're qualifying that you're only free insofar as you're able to choose what is good.
Yeah.
But then why does that not also apply to your capacity to choose bad? I would argue that wouldn't the word free refer to the capacity to choose between those two things? Because if you were only to choose only choose good, wouldn't you be a slave to goodness in the same way you were a slave to evil?
Right.
Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah. Sorry, maybe let me clarify. I don't mean that you're not able to choose something that's bad. That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, if we're talking about, and your original question was in terms of society and whether or not we should impose, you use the word impose that on society. And I'm saying, if what makes people in society truly free is being able to do whatever they want unless they harm someone else, I'm saying that's not real freedom. I'm saying in the context of society, it's people that if we're going to be imposing anything, it should be creating the conditions in the environment that allows people to choose what is good. And if that is chopping off young people's like genitals, some could argue that that's harm, some could argue that's not. But I'm saying that if we're going to go by what is good, what makes us free. So I believe that the structure of society and all the laws that we make should be conducive to enabling people to choose what is good. Doesn't mean we force them to choose what is good. It doesn't mean that they're not able to choose what is bad. It just means that to your original question, what are we imposing on society? I think that we need to look at it. What is the good, and what is freedom, and do we want to be creating an environment that is conducive to choosing the good, or is our definition simply freedom is do whatever you want unless you hurt someone? But then I'm saying there's a conflict there of how do you define harm? How do you know what is good? And that's why I'm saying I don't believe that freedom is doing absolutely whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is where it kind of comes interesting, because I believe freedom as a concept exists independently of any like moral normative loading, where it's like you can choose good, you can choose bad. Sorry. Freedom only exists insofar as you can choose good. I don't think that technically, when it comes to freedom, I don't want to pull up Merriam-Webster, but like,
what is freedom?
Yeah. But the idea is that I understand that like the goal of society should be creating a space and an environment where you're able to choose freely between good and evil. But still, that's the point: is that the free choice is allowing you to.
But you said you don't want to choose what is. You said you don't want to choose what is harmful.
I don't want people to choose what is harmful, but the capacity to do so is what defines freedom.
Right.
I would say. And so this is why I'm saying, like, I think that we should live in a world where people should have the capacity to choose things that are wrong, insofar as they don't harm other people. For example, cheating. I think that's something that shouldn't be legally, I'm talking about legally here. So, like, we can disagree on a moral basis that that's something just terrible, but I don't think that is something that should be, like, encoded into law, because I believe that freedom should give you the capacity to choose wrong things, bad things, as well as good things, but as long as insofar as they don't harm people.
So your definition of harm, or of like, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm struggling to understand. Is bad and harm are two different things? Is that what you're saying? I could choose what's bad.
Immoral.
Immoral. I could choose things that are immoral, but not harmful.
No, because cheating is harmful, right?
So then it shouldn't be legal.
No, okay. So let me be specific. I don't think all things that are harmful should be illegal.
That isn't what you said to begin with.
Sorry,
I guess that's my
confusion.
You're
right. It isn't what I said to begin with. I don't know why my brain's messing up, but what I'm trying to say is
we have been talking for almost 3 hours.
absolutely. But my idea is that in order to be free, you would have to have the capacity to choose between good and evil, but that each are as important each other in the definition of free. In the same way that you could be a slave to evil. Right?
No, because intrinsic to good is freedom.
Okay, isn't it possible to have someone who is chronically addicted to doing good things in such a way that they are unable to act outside of that, and in a way that like what they perceive to be good things, and it affects their own personal well-being? Like, that's in a way as the type of slavery in the same way would qualify as
being addicted to the good.
Yeah, well, if I was someone who gets steamrolled because they're so nice to people, technically, like, they're being good.
But that's not the good, because that justice would say that they shouldn't be getting steamrolled, and justice is a good.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. But my argument, my kind of question is, like, why is there like this normative loading to the word freedom? Like, why
normative
are you not free?
loading?
Sorry, it's a bit of a stupid. But why are you not free if you are if you are choosing bad things? Like, isn't that by definition something that is like inherent to the word free, where it's like you're able to sift between different options and choose whatever is available to you? Isn't that what freedom is?
Right. So if, you're saying that free. Well, first I thought we were talking about society, but if you want to talk like more specifically about like the nature of freedom.
Well, we can talk about society. I mean,
So I guess to your original question, if freedom in society means do whatever I want, good or bad, unless it harms someone.
Yes, but But not
how do you
all
quantify harm?
Yeah, but not all harmful things should be illegal. Like as I
So that's
mentioned,
what I'm
by
saying.
cheating.
Then that's my point. I'm saying that's not for me. That's not a good structure. I don't believe that's a very helpful structure for a society, because then you've got all these competing claims of what's good, what's bad, what's harmful, and what's not harmful, or to what degree of harm should we intervene. So I'm saying if it's simply a matter of harm or not harm, I don't think that's a very strong argument for a structure of a society, because I feel like all you have to do is look around
for the legal basis of a society.
Yeah, something like all you have to do is look around, like who. Okay. Yeah.
So what should the legal system be based upon, if not the harm principle?
Like creating an environment that is conducive to freedom and freedom, like to choosing the good, and we punish those who choose what is evil.
So everything that is illegal is precisely illegal insofar as that the capacity to that it limits the creation of a society where freedom is allowed.
Well, here's the thing. I think I should probably preface by saying a couple of things. One, I don't know the perfect system. We haven't worked it out. We've been doing it for however many years we've been on this planet.
The idea is like the
we'll be constantly striving to an ideal, and I don't think we'll ever reach it here.
Yeah.
And I think we can probably both agree on that. Like we can keep trying, but like I don't believe there's one perfect system.
Yeah, of course.
And two, one, there's no perfect system, and two, wait, hang on, what was number two? Oh my God, I lost my train of thought. One, there was no perfect... Yeah, I know. 3 hours. One, there's no perfect system. And two, one, there's no perfect system. And two, I'm not saying I'm not like claiming that, that like this is the exact... Like, I'm not saying that the Catholic Church, for example, should be like the arbiter of
what's harm and
of
what's
every
well-being.
single law that we should make. I'm not saying that either.
Yeah.
I'm just simply making like a broad strokes argument of like, if we're going to be striving towards something, let's be striving collectively towards like creating an environment that is conducive to the good. And then I guess the real question is like, how do you know what is good? And that really does go back to what we were talking about before. Yeah. Like, if you can't know that anything is good with any certainty, then there shouldn't be any laws. Because like you can't make a law imposing on someone a thing with uncertainty, because I think that that's a dangerous game.
Well, yeah, I would argue, and you're gonna hate this, but that mass consensus of a particular moral system is what makes laws. Essentially,
of course, that's what makes laws. Yeah. Should it be what makes laws? And I don't think so.
I think there's no other way to do it.
Yeah, I think democracy. I think not even. Maybe democracy is a little bit of a targeted, like a little bit of a loaded word, but I think whatever we're doing right now, it's not working. If that's the mass voting and being swayed, and we think that freedom is just not harming people, and we think that we should make laws so that I don't harm you and you don't harm me, it's clearly not working.
So I'm curious as to a law that isn't based on the harm principle that you think should exist. Oh, the microphone's going to pick up my stomach. Sorry.
Are you hungry?
It's really loud.
Oh no. Okay.
Doing something in bread.
Wait. Sorry. What was your question? Think of a law that's not based on the harm principle.
Yeah, because it seems like from what you're saying, I don't want to misrepresent you, but you said that harm alone isn't something that isn't sufficient to govern how we create our laws, because it should be oriented at creating an environment where people are free to choose between good and evil, right?
No, I think what I'm saying is your initial claim was that we should have a society that is free, like as in you could choose good or evil, whatever.
Yes.
Unless it harms someone.
To a certain extent.
That's what I'm saying, and that's my point. Is that like who qualifies the harm, and that's my problem. Is that like right now, and you said all the masses, and I'm saying that has clearly not proven effective. If the mass and the mob chooses what is harm, I don't believe that is creating an environment for true freedom, and all you have to do is look around.
I want to be Winston Churchill and say like that's why democracy is the best of the worst. Like
perhaps
the best. I mean, what else do we have aside from mass consensus for deciding what is harmful?
Right. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not, and those are my two. Even though I struggled to get out the second one.
Yeah.
Those are my two initial claims. Like one, like I don't think we'll ever reach perfection, and two, I'm not claiming that I know what the true system, what the best system is. But all I'm saying is I'm not convinced that what we're doing now is working. And I'm also not convinced by like this harm principle and that the masses decide the harm. Because if you have the masses deciding that killing innocent children, I'm not going to quantify that any further. But if the masses decide that killing innocent children is somehow not harming anyone, We've failed.
Yeah.
We really have failed.
Okay.
And I believe that we're on our way.
Yeah, the problem is that I can understand that, and I agree with you that masses could be wrong about everything.
Yeah.
But I think that's the inherent flaw of democracy, and I think
Exactly, yeah.
But that's the problem is that I don't think there is a better existence that exists unless you have someone, an uncorruptible, godlike figure.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
it doesn't exist. Yeah.
Which is the that's actually philosophically that's what we characterize as the optimal form of government is one benevolent, absolutely perfect figure who is essentially controls everything. That's what we consider the best.
Yeah,
that doesn't exist. The idea is that mass consensus is the best alternative. So I'm curious as to whether you have any other alternative, because I can understand that. It's but as far as we're concerned, it's trying to change the world, have these discussions and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Obviously, you want to try and come up with some alternative.
It seems to me that your criticism is a fair criticism.
Yeah.
But it's pragmatically, is there anything you can do that's better? That's kind of my question.
Well, in terms of the actual structure, I don't know. And it's really interesting that we're talking about this because I have actually been thinking a lot about it. And I'm not going to say, camera. What I really think.
Oh, come on, let's end on a bang. Come on.
Absolutely not. Because it will haunt me forever.
I'll edit it out, I swear.
No way.
Yeah. You right?
Yeah. I think though. No, I've got my tea, but I don't want to drink any more because I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, true.
I don't think. Yeah, again, I don't claim to know the real system. I have my opinions, but I think they're probably a little too dicey for what we've got going on here.
Right.
But broad strokes, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Democracy is possible that it's the best of the worst.
Yeah.
What I would say is and again, this really does go back to our conversation that we were having before about morality and why it does matter that we can make certain claims about morality, because in a system where it is about the mass, it is about the mob, it is about the majority, and then you've got the mass, the mob, the majority claiming that it's impossible to know any moral truth with any real certainty. You've literally got an entire population voting without any certainty on what is moral and what is true. And so I think that the real I don't know, I feel like where we're going to see the real change is in changing the culture. And in having these conversations. I do think, and I know it's really cringe to be the grassroots, but I think it's true. And this is what I was going right at the beginning of our conversation, this indifference or this and that's the thing. I don't think that you're unintelligent for your claim, right? Even I might believe it's a contradiction, but I'm not saying I don't understand where you're coming from, and I totally do. But I'm saying I think that's
neither do I.
Of course, and it was really fun. But I think that it's dangerous when you sincerely think that there's no way that you can say anything morally with certainty. You can be quite sure, but you can't be certain. And I'm saying I think that's where the danger is. And if the culture can change in saying that, hang on, maybe we can know things are morally wrong, and maybe we should care about them, and maybe they do matter, and that this indifference that and I'm not saying that you're indifferent, but I'm saying that belief or that system is dangerous because it can and it has led to this idea that if we can't know anything with real certainty, and if everything is just my beliefs and thing, then it doesn't matter. And I think you might agree with that, and maybe you don't agree with where it's going, and I'm not saying you do, because I'm sure you do care about a lot of these things. But I'm saying that you can see where it goes very quickly.
The thing is, I don't want to kind of push back to an extent where we get back into
I know.
But I do believe
I think that's the culture change. That's my point.
So when I'm saying that I'm uncertain about something, it doesn't mean I lack conviction, and it doesn't mean I lack conviction or the basis for that conviction. So I would die for every claim that I make. So that's how certain I am about the things. That's my kind of thing where it's yeah, sure, technically I can't make the claim with absolute certainty, but that's why I'm kind of arguing that it's sort of a point that doesn't matter as much, so long as my conviction is tempered to the certainty that I have, which is 99%, which means that I'm willing to die for each of the claims that I make. I'm willing to die to defend any claim about killing whatever it is. I'm willing to die. And so because of that, I think that conviction, so long as that's there, I'm happy with the fact that most people share that conviction. What I'm unhappy about, this is going to sound really bad, but I do believe that some of the biggest contentions is the religious interference with political
right, you want separation of
So I believe
valid.
The majority of my moral principles are going to be shared with you, and I think that the majority,
I don't doubt that.
and I believe that the majority of where the moral principles would deviate sorry, not me and you, but from societal principles, would probably be from a difference in metaethical beliefs, i.e. religion, which is where people have different claims as to whether or not their beliefs are objectively true. And it's difficult to reconcile because they both as convinced as each other. And that's where I think that it's like, I prefer to be in sort of this shared space of where we both are kind of working from these a shared ethical foundation. And I still believe that most of my morality is based on that Judeo-Christian kind of ethic that underpins your own. And so because of that,
it's funny you say Judeo and Christian in the hyphenated. I would argue that they're two different value systems.
Well, I mean, the Jews perceive.
But let's not go into that.
Yeah.
Not on camera. No, I would say that while we might have similar beliefs, I don't believe we have a shared. I think based on what what we were talking about before, I don't believe that we actually share, from a fundamental point of view. I don't think we actually share fundamentally the same values and viewpoints, and that's the problem with the mob or the mass and the majority is that they're all happy to exist in this shared space where we kind of we try and find out if it's true. We can't really know, so we kind of doesn't really matter. Maybe it does, and you kind of got this back and forth. I'm saying, I think that that's a problem, and I'm not happy to share that shared space. I'm not happy to be in that shared space. I want to
understand.
I want to be making those. Yeah,
I understand that, but I would say that so long as we have the same, I think so long we have the same. So there's meta ethics, but where our ethics come from, and then there's the applied ethics, which is and applied and normative ethics, which is the idea okay, we have different ideas of where they come from. You believe it's from God, I believe it's from an objective, whatever, statement of the universe, and whatever it is.
I think they inevitably clash.
Arbitrary, yeah. Okay,
I just think they'll inevitably
clash. But
yeah.
how does it clash in its pragmatic application, in the way that we structure laws and everything? It doesn't, because we both share essentially the same moral principles, regardless of whether we got them from. Because we have such a large agreement, I don't think it's as big a problem as we think. We don't have to have this. We don't need to share the same meta-ethical grounding to be able to construct kind of laws and societal kind of cultural prescriptions, as long as we have a similar kind of ethical system.
Well, if I chucked you into Afghanistan, how would you feel about that?
Terrible.
Why?
Because I believe that the way they have constructed their laws based on a different meta-ethical, foundation. I don't know. Are they a Sharia? I don't know what they are.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
Is based on what you're saying, there's all these variations and these different countries. A country like Afghanistan and I don't claim to be a feminist or anything, but I'm saying the way that they treat women. I'm saying based on that, I'm saying that they exist in that shared space and they've come to this agreement that this is the best way they want to structure their society. Yeah. And are you happy with that?
No, but
right.
I'm saying that so long as me and you agree in our Western world that on these basic claims, then we can construct an ethical system. We can construct the laws around the ethical system that we share. Yeah. In case
can you condemn? But can you condemn with any certainty?
Subjectively.
Yeah, but you can't. So you can't condemn with any certainty that what they're doing
with 99%, not any 99.5% certainty. That's a lot of certainty.
But you can't say with because that's not certainty.
Absolutely,
certainty is 100%.
Yeah, but my thing is I don't get why there is a meaningful difference between.
Well, I'm saying, and that's precisely my point. Is if we're structuring a society, it does matter if we can say with certainty if things are morally wrong or right. Because when we have these moral opposing moral arguments, or when we have these what's the word, contradictory moral claims, it does matter that one of us says we can be pretty sure, or we can be sure, and one of us is right, one of us is wrong, and that the other one of us is saying maybe 99%, Joe over here 85, Sally over here 75, and I'm saying that's not insignificant. But I understand what you're saying. And I think what you're trying to I understand what you're trying to get is you're not an immoral person. You're not trying to justify murdering and slaughtering of innocent people. You're not trying to justify what's happening in Afghanistan. Yeah. But I'm saying that fundamental belief system or that fundamental way of viewing the world is
what causes the difference between Afghanistan and here.
Effectively, and or even just in our own society is how do we have these competing moral claims? Yeah. And how do we reconcile them? In your world, we cannot. Yeah. In my world, I'm saying we can reconcile them by saying somebody's got to be wrong, somebody's got to be right. We can use our rational faculties to know that, and we should attempt to structure society as much as possible based on those conclusions. Whether or not we'll ever get perfect, I don't know. Whether or not that's a separation of church and state, I feel like that's pretty clear. Democracy, I don't know, like we've we're trying.
And I understand that. Except my belief is that the problem between Afghanistan and us and the difference that we have in values isn't from rooting from the idea that we don't have objectivity in our beliefs. I think it's rooting from two different societies of people making independent and separate claims to the source of their morality.
No, but the fact that you can't condemn it, that you can't be sure that that's condemnable, to me is concerning.
I would say it's more concerning that your claim to objectivity clashes with their claim to objectivity, and there's nothing you can do about it because you're both.
No, I don't. But that's what I'm saying. I don't think there's nothing I can do about it.
I think that's more of an issue.
But I'm saying one of us is wrong and one of us is right. Yeah.
The point is that because you're making both technically what you believe to be objective claims, that means you are unable to question your own belief system, which means that those people can't.
It doesn't mean that you're not able to question it, but
but it's objective. That means it's unfalsifiable.
No, my broader point is simply that, like, if we're going to be structuring a society, yes, it's lovely that, like, 9 times out of 10 we'll probably agree that on the laws that are made.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that clearly that's not enough. It's not enough that you're 85% sure.
Why clearly?
Well, because we literally have laws, and I don't want to get into it, but we literally have laws that are killing people completely innocent. Who, and again, it's this harm principle. I'm saying, who is the arbiter of harm? Who is being harmed? The innocent person, the person responsible for the innocent person. If you know what I'm saying, like, like, or I don't know that. Like, I can think of plenty of examples, all controversial. I won't bring them up on camera, perhaps, but I think we know it. But I'm saying the very fact that those laws have been passed, to me, is a proof of the failure of that kind of thinking. That it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would. I think we have an agreement. We have an agreement on the fact that it's important, and our disagreement stems from the reason why these laws have been passed. I think it seems to me from what you're saying that the fact that you can't make objective claims to these things is a significant contributing factor to why these laws are passing.
Yeah.
I would say that it's more so a difference in an understanding of where your ethical claims come from. Because you believe it's subjective, that means we can't debate with you and you can't debate with us. Do you know what I mean? Like if two people have different sources of morality, they're at a standstill and you can't do anything if both of those claims are objective.
Well, that's an interesting point. Yeah. But I guess maybe a specific example is, like, there are particular laws that when they first came in, the degree of the point at which the government allowed. I really don't know how to talk about this without, like. Anyway,
I think everyone knows.
I think you know what I'm saying. At first it was, at this point it's okay to do this. Yeah. And then it was, at this point it's okay to do this. And then it became, it's about the circumstances, or it's about, like, every case is different. Yeah. And, which is silly. It's fine for this, but not for this. Or if it's this, then it's not this. And you see exactly what I'm saying is that if you cannot say that this is the point that it matters, and anything after this point is wrong.
You can say that as well.
But that's what I'm saying. And we should be able to say that. But the laws that have passed have proven that that's not the case. Yeah. And here's my point. It's like, it's not simply a matter of, like, competing moral claims. It's like, well, and maybe it is. It is a matter of competing moral claims. But I'm saying, like, there are no moral claims being made at all, because it's simply whatever I want. And that's my point. It's like, it's about harm, or it's about, like, me or my feelings or what I want. Like, it's not like, it's like, well, I feel like this, but if you're in that situation at exactly the same point in time, you can do something different, and that's okay. Yeah, and I'm saying that they're not really moral claims.
Yeah, I would argue the people who defend that sort of subjectivity about, like, defending the morality of an action-based existentialism, that's just dumb. I think everyone, everyone, a lot of people don't think that.
Well, our laws literally prove that that's the case.
Well, I think
there are circumstances in which it's acceptable, or circumstances in which it's not.
We'll get into that another time. But
off camera.
I do off camera. But I do believe that the issue is people not being able to come to mass consensus about that thing, because we don't have one book that everyone universally regards as true, or some arbiter that everyone universally regards as true.
Right.
That dictates what moral, how our morals should be constructed. Because of that, we have to fight. And that you have to, unless you're able to convince everyone of a particular, meta-ethical system. And I think unless you're able to do that with 100% conviction and convert everyone to Catholicism understand that, then you can't. You'd have to revert to having a normative ethical dialogue about the way, because we share the idea that it's wrong to harm people. That's something that's every moral system is always going to have something to do with harm. Yeah. And so long as that exists, we're able to have the discussion. But the difficulty is that we can't come to mass consensus without one single book or person telling us. And I think that's where the issue kind of stems from. And I think you would agree, you say we need some unifying thing to be able to make that. Yeah. Which I
believe exists.
Yeah. I was going to say something, but it's going to trigger
what time is it actually?
Yeah,
I'm supposed to be making dinner for my family tonight.
Yeah. So we'll wrap it up. But I just want to ask one question before you leave, just as an end up.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
No, thank you. This was really good.
To the biggest podcast in the world, 3 million subscribers. I was going to say.
I wish.
Yeah, I was going to ask you one question. What is one belief you've changed over the years and why?
Ooh. That's a really good question. One belief.
Yeah.
Probably that, like emotional experiences, don't matter.
Okay. Wow.
And I think that I think I honor. I try and have reverence for people's emotional experiences, and that they do matter. Not that they dictate with any real finality or certainty, but I think that they matter more than I believed.
Right.
That they're important.
Great. And favorite book or movie?
Oh, okay. Our favorite book?
I know you're a big book person. So,
honestly, I love The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Why?
I started reading that. It was kind of hard, but yeah.
It is. It's it's tough to get into once you're into it. It's so good. I just think that and this is where I started to learn about this the significance of emotional depth. Was the emotional depth of the characters in the book is quite incredible. Just the layers to the characters. And also the ending. I won't spoil it, but it's very human. The ending is incredibly human, and I think that's I've never forgotten it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that concludes. But
amazing. That was really good.
That was fun. I hope you enjoyed.
Should I keep recording or should I stop
No,
it?
stop it.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
See ya.